And as I was saying, Olas Carter, I'm not a fan of the gangbang scene, but otherwise the script is spot on. Good evening, ghouls and fiends, and welcome to another episode of the Ministry of Horror. I'm your host, as always, Tezz. And joining me today, we have musician and actor, Olas Carter. Olas, welcome to the show.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Well, yeah, pleasure to have you on board. I see we've got a few people. Bruce Todd's obviously at the start of the show. Carrie's cool, saying howdy. She's a former guest as well. We got a jam-packed show tonight, Olas. We got plenty of news. We got quite a few reviews. We've got a retro review, and we've got our main discussion point of the show. But before we get to any of that, I always like to ask my guests a few kind of questions just to really introduce yourself a bit to those watching or listening on the podcast feeds who may not be familiar. So Olas, if you had to pinpoint your, I suppose, horror origin story, like where your love for horror kind of started, where would you say that was?
Okay, I can actually tell you this. And I forgot, you actually sent me a message and said about this as well, and I completely forgot you asked me to do this. But so I'm sort of been caught on the spot, but at the same time, I'm like, oh yeah, you actually said to me to do this. There was a friend of my mum's years and years ago. I must have been like, 6 or 7? And I used to have to go upstairs to use the toilet, and there would just be this picture of Freddy Krueger, and I used to hate it. Like, I used to run up the stairs, go and run in the toilet, and then, you know, sort of, I remember my mum and my mum's friend, they would say to me, it's just a picture, there's nothing to be afraid of. So I sort of confronted it in a way and sort of just dealt with that anxiety, you know, as sort of a little kid, and I realized there's nothing really to be scared of. It's a make-believe thing. And then I had older brothers and sisters, and they would always watch horror movies. So I was always kind of subjected to that sort of thing. Yeah. And now I love them, you know, just I love what they do. I love what they're about. And I think horror in general is one of those genres that is able to make you feel something more so than a lot of other genres. You know, even if it's a cheap jump scare, it still makes you react to what you're seeing on the screen. And that's one of the things I love about it.
Oh, excellent. Now, as you mentioned earlier, you're also an actor.
Try to be.
No. You're
don't always come out good.
You are good. You are good. Has there been any film that you've seen, or maybe it's a particular actor or a particular director's work, anything? Is there been anything that's been a real inspiration to you, either just as an actor or maybe for particular roles?
There is, and I chose one of the films that one of the actors is in as well, and it's Sam Neill. I had this sort of, I don't know what it is about him, but there's just something that's really natural. Not only is he playing himself, but he's acting really good playing himself. And I think that to do as an actor is very inspirational, because you can learn a lot from that. And you think, well, that is how he is, but he's acting good. And there is another actor as well, and I can't remember his bloody name. He was in The Ritual. He was also in the BBC of War of the Worlds as well.
Is it Rafe Spall?
Yes, Rafe Spall. Yeah. I love him. He's such a good actor, but he does everything naturally. So I imagine that's how he is. And I think it's that balance. And I've always found inspiration from actors that can act well, but also be themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah. They don't seem wooden. They seem as if they are, you know, in that moment.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Another question that I do regularly ask when I have guests on. Now, barring the films that we're going to be discussing a bit later on as the kind of the main event of the show, if you had to pick a top 3 films that for you at the moment, when I say at the moment, I don't mean as in new films, but as in if you had to say my 3 favourite films are, what would they be and why?
Oh man, That is okay. So that is a ridiculously difficult question because, like, I can't even do a top 10. Like, I would, okay, sod it. I'm just going to say, right, Ghostbusters, just because it's comical genius. Aliens, only because it's just an awesome film, and Ripley is an absolute fucking badass. And not only that, it was during a time when I guess women in roles, they weren't specifically perceived as these sort of big characters, and she just was just this phenomenal big character, and she owned that movie. And I think it's just a fantastic film altogether. Sigourney Weaver is an amazing actor as well. And I don't know. Yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles,
Oh,
the very
okay.
first one, only because I think it's quite dark, and I quite like that.
Weren't the comics that the whole franchise was originally based on, weren't they meant to be quite dark? Do you
I don't
know?
know, were they?
I believe so. I've never actually read any of the comics. I mean, my exposure really has only ever been Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, the UK
The cartoon.
the UK cartoon. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got some activity in the chat. Bruce
Okay.
Todd says hot take. He thinks Alien 3 is the best one.
Okay, director's cut all the way. I'm with him.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know what? I never really liked it when I first saw it, and I think for me, part of the difficulty was getting past the CGI, which is very of its time.
Yes, they did. They did try and introduce the alien did look a bit dodge, I gotta admit. But of course, what was it in the director's cut? It was from the cow, or was it from the dog? I can't remember.
So I think it's the cow or the yak in the
Oh, that was a yak. That
yeah
was,
in the recut. Yeah, yeah. Directors, Bruce says. We also got the gruff as well in the chat. Frown the cannon. Yeah, director's cut is the cow. Frown the cannon says the classic black and white Turtles comics are actually quite dark. I'll have to dig them out someday. I do like a good
Yeah.
graphic novel. So kind of lastly now, and you don't need to talk about the films that you've been in that me and Peter have have worked on, but
Yeah.
what's kind of been your experience transitioning from a fan of horror into acting in horrors?
Crikey. Well, I mean, I suppose I'll just answer honestly. I mean, I just accepted what was offered to me, um, to put it bluntly.
That's fair enough.
I didn't specifically look out for horror, but I'm glad that I got those parts. I mean, I got to meet you as well, wonderful human being, and Pete too. I suppose I can't leave him out. And the rest of everyone else. It was just nice working with everyone. But it was good. It was good being on a horror. I mean, now I would happily do a horror all the time. And I think personally, I think I can act better in horror than, let's say, if I was just a doctor. I don't know why. I did a short where I was a doctor, and I was awful. Like, I look back and I was just like, what was I even doing? Like, I don't even know. Yeah.
So I got probably like two more questions that I just kind of thought of.
Okay, yeah, go for it. Yeah, go on. Bring him on.
Go on. So let's say you've been typed up to play a big role, a film from your youth or from your just one of the films that you absolutely love is being remade, let's say, and you're up for one of your favorite parts. Which part in a remake of one of your favorite films would you love to play?
Oh, the guy with the baby in Total Recall.
Okay.
But I'd be the baby.
You'd be the baby.
Hello, I've come for you. I can see. Because he sort of talked like that, didn't he?
He did,
think. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
fair enough. I mean,
That'll be a fun role.
did they do the baby in the Total Recall Colin Farrell remake. I've not actually seen that one.
Shit, I forgot they actually did that, didn't they? I don't remember anything from there that was remotely similar to Arnold Schwarzenegger's Total Recall. I think it was just all I remember from that is just a lot of highway chases or something.
Okay. I haven't seen it. I've only ever seen the original.
It wasn't good.
And lastly, before we move on to okay, the Gruff's got a really good one. The Gruff has said Kurt Russell in The Thing for him. He's such a badass in the film, and it's definitely in his top 3 horrors.
Do you know what? Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
Because I'm a bit of a John Carpenter fan anyway, and a Kurt Russell, fan because he's a good actor too. And I wanted to talk about The Thing. You know, one of the films that we were going to talk about. I wanted to put The Thing in there, but I felt like The Thing has always been one of the most popular choices when it comes to that movie because it is an absolute great film in terms of paranoia, the acting, the setting. Just everything about that film is incredible. The special effects, the puppetry, it's incredible. They did kind of ruin it a bit with the is it 2009-10 sequel, I think, or prequel even, where they did go a bit CGI. I know they had puppetry there, but yeah, I wanted to talk about The Thing, and I thought, do you know what? I'm going to leave that. That can be an honourable mention because I think that film just. I didn't want to talk about it really.
No, we can definitely do that as an honourable mention. And the Gruff says the score too in The Thing is incredible. I'd highly recommend if you haven't. I think it might be on all the recent releases, but they recently did a 4K release of The Thing, and it's got a commentary recorded with John Carpenter and Kurt Russell. I think they might have recorded it in the late 90s, early 2000s, but it's excellent. John Carpenter's memory at that time of recording is just impeccable for just.
That is awesome. Let me just type that in because I'm gonna remember to get that. Am I talking too loud? Is this a good volume?
As far as I can tell, it's a good volume. If chat haven't mentioned anything about volumes, but by all means, we're restreaming live on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook Live, and other places. If there's a volume thing, let us know. In regards to the prequel, so Fran the Can has said it's not a great film, but he enjoyed the prequel at the time. I liked the story in terms of the connective tissue between the events at the very start of John Carpenter's The Thing and how this one ended. Yeah. But for me, the CGI, especially when they had practical effects there, but then they went over them with CGI, makes no sense to me. Why did the studio do
that? Why did they do that?
And also, I just felt that it lost the paranoia which was a key thing in The Thing, because straight away within like 10 minutes you're getting action, you're getting the alien on full show, and there's no real sense of
dread.
Who could be infected? Anyone could be infected. You know. The Gruff says, I agree. I really like the idea of finding out how it got there, but it was just awfully made and far too much CGI. Fully
agreed.
So my final little question I wanted to throw in there. So you're a musician. You release music as
musician. Let's call it electronic music artist.
You're an electronic music artist.
I'm learning guitar. I'm not.
Well,
oh no, I do. I use a Rainmaker in some of my tracks. So yeah, okay, let's say musician.
There you go. So how did that come about? Did you start doing the music before the acting, or?
Okay, I've been doing music for years, and I was making a lot of trance music. I think since like 99, 2000, it was somewhere around that sort of thing. And I had a new Mac that I bought in 2007. I started making music on that, and it was a few years ago that it basically broke, and I didn't really have the money to get it repaired. And so I kind of lost my sound that I made, that I sort of did myself. I kind of lost that. I couldn't recreate it. So then lockdown hit, and I was just like, man, this sucks. Might as well use the time to do something. I'm not great at it, but I've got loads of stuff that I've been working really hard at. I've been getting some advice from people. I'm in a group where we often talk about let's call it the technicalities of EQing.
Mm-hmm.
So where sound is positioned and you've got to make space for bits of sound. I'm learning a lot of technical things, and a lot of things that I thought I knew years ago I didn't have a clue about, basically, but I thought I knew. So I'm learning so much. And some of my earlier stuff that's out, it's just me basically toying around and playing with sounds. But with each track I release, there will be something that I've learned, and to me, the production value is better.
Yeah,
So,
I get that. You're learning as you go.
Learning as I go. Yeah.
Well, I will have to say I generally normally I listen to all sorts, but normally I listen to heavy metal, death metal, hard rock, and all that. But I like I like a lot of what's it called, like vaporwave or synthwave, that sort of stuff.
Synthwave, all right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, basically, I was at Halloween Horror Nights in 2019 in Orlando, and they had a very Stranger Things type theme, and that's the first time hearing a guy called Daniel Deluxe, a song of his called Darkness, which samples Tim Curry's character from Legend. Anyway, I then started getting into a bit of that kind of stuff and expanding my horizons a bit. On Spotify, I've only got 74 songs in my liked song section, and one of them is, I think it's your song Find You, Lasers Find You. Is it called Find You?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
One of your songs is in my liked
I'm
song
pretty
section.
sure. One of them is in there.
It's got like a kind of train sound at the start, like a horn or something.
Crikey, what one is that? Oh, do you know what? I should really know. That's really bad. I literally spend, when I'm not working or looking for acting roles, my headphones are just glued to my ears because I'm just constantly making music. So you can't see my library, but there's probably about 150 tracks there. So I forget what I've actually released, even though I haven't released that much. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate that anyway.
That's all right. I'll just put in the chat it's Lasers on Spotify and Apple Music. So check them out. My sister, Carrie's cool, says don't forget about jazz. I do like some jazz. I'll be honest. Fran the Cannon.
Jazz. Whiplash. Have you seen Whiplash?
I've got it recorded on Sky, and it's in my list along with like The Godfather Part 3, because I've still never seen it. I know it's not the better one.
I've never seen that either. I haven't even seen the first two of that. Okay, Whiplash.
Mm-hmm.
If you like jazz, especially, it's very, it's a beautiful film. But it makes you appreciate. I think if you don't like jazz, that film will make you appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think this potentially may be related to Whiplash. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bruce Todd, because like I said, I haven't seen the film. But Bruce Todd has said on the YouTube chat, when are you starting on 12-hour drone improvs? Not quite my tempo. Is that something related to Whiplash? I think I've seen a clip of...
drone improvs? I'm trying to think.
I've seen a bit of clip from the guy who's... I can't remember his name. J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
Kicking off about that's not my tempo or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll definitely give it a watch because J.K. Simmons is incredible.
Yeah, he's amazing in that. What was that message about the drones?
It's a quote from Whiplash. When are you starting on 12-hour drone improvs?
Okay, I don't remember that.
I've got it. I think this week I will finally, like I say, Whiplash, one of those films where I go through, the streaming platforms and go, yeah, I'll add that to my watch list, but I just never get around to watching it.
I know. Same as me. I've got like an Amazon watch list, a Disney watch list, a Netflix watch list. And I forget what I've added to it. It's so big.
I tend to end up binging shows. Like recently, I started watching The Missing, which I think came out years ago, but I never saw it. It's a prequel series to a show that's been on BBC recently called Baptiste. It's a French detective who finds people that are missing. Mm-hmm. I skipped season 1 because apparently the ending of that sucked. But in season 2, a girl got abducted when she was 15 or something, 11 years ago. And then she suddenly randomly turns up and she mentions the name of another girl who'd also been missing. And it's one of those series that jumps between time frames. So prior to the abduction, what you think is the current time, but is actually a couple of years prior to the current time. It definitely, if you like a good mystery thriller, whodunit, I would say season 2 of The Missing, because season 1 I don't think is meant to be that good.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway,
Where,
but yeah,
is that on Netflix?
Netflix, yeah, and
Okay.
Baptiste is on Disney Plus, which I think is the follow-up series.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd recommend that. But we're now going to get on to some horror news. I've got a few things here, but we'll get through these. We'll get to the reviews, and then we'll start talking about the 5 unnerving paranoia-based horror films, along with obviously the honourable mention of The Thing. So first up in the news, I'm going to blitz through this because there's quite a bit on here.
Okay.
From bloody.
Oh, shut up. It's a bit, Nick.
That's all right. Oh, wait a second. I've just seen the Gruffer said, slightly off topic, but just want to say I watched the original Suspiria today. So good. I totally get the praise that I've been putting on the film. Gonna try and give Inferno a watch very soon.
Suspiria, what's that?
Oh, Nick. Oh, so
what's Suspiria?
Last week's show, I talked about the what's known as the Three Mothers trilogy, which is there's an Italian director called Dario Argento, who is do you know much about Giallo?
No,
that's fine. Giallo is basically quite gory Italian thrillers, to kind of to sum it up, and Suspiria is an incredible. Don't watch the remake. There was a remake in 2018 and it's trash.
Oh, that's what I'm looking at now. Okay, forget that one.
Forget
1977?
1977. It's incredible. The music, it just the vibrant colours in it. I basically I did about an hour and a half talking about Suspiria and its 2 sequels. One of which is worth watching. The other one is shit. But yeah, check out Suspiria.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, added that to my watch list.
So coming from bloodydisgusting.com, there are 3 new horror movies releasing at home this week, and plus The Northman hits theatres. So this comes from John Squires. So coming up this week in home release of horror, there's Dark Star Pictures is unleashing the shocking black comedy Bloody Oranges on Tuesday. It was released in limited theatres last month, but it's now coming out on VOD. I'll drop the link in the chat so people can check out. There's a few trailers here, but basically Bloody Oranges, a retired couple enter a dance contest, a corrupt politician, a girl eager to lose her virginity, and a young lawyer obsessed with social status. A seemingly benign look into these daily lives goes haywire in this shocking black comedy. It's directed.
Oh, that's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on there. It's directed by Jean-Christophe Maurice, and the cast includes Alexandre Steiger, Christophe Powell, and Lilith Grasmurg. I'm going to assume it's French from the names included there. Bruce Todd says funky music and leather gloves is the Giallo staple. Yeah, it's pretty much you're going to get a leather gloved killer that you don't see until later on the film, and quite funky music. Just going to have a quick swig of water because the next bit of news is very, very interesting. So, coming to Netflix this week, famed documentarian Joe Berlinger, who also directed Blair Witch 2, which isn't everyone's favourite. He directed the Ted Bundy tapes, and now coming to Netflix is a 3-episode limited series, Conversations with a Killer, the John Wayne Gacy tapes. John Wayne Gacy, serial killer, was an aspiring politician, beloved local contractor, and part-time clown for hire who murdered 33 young men between 1972 and 1976. And the majority of his victims were found buried under his house in the quiet northwest suburbs of Chicago. 50 years later, DNA scientists are still trying to identify all of his victims, but thanks to 60 hours of unearthed audio between Gacy and his defense team, there's a fresh perspective on the narcissistic mindset of the murderer and a deeper understanding of how he operated for so long with impunity. I mean, if you like true crime, that's got to be a must-watch.
I mean, I've done some stuff with Britain's Most Evil Killers and World's Most Evil Killers. And that just sounds like some of the stories are like horrific. But that is just, oh my God. Yeah,
it just like 33 young men, and he buried most of them under his house.
That is just an incredible amount. How would you even get away with that? Like, you think after at least 5, people go, well, something's not quite right here.
I think that he kind of targeted mainly like runaways or forgive me if I'm getting this incorrect, but like rent boys or people working at like hitchhiking. So I think it was kind of that period of time, and it probably is. I don't know if it's still like that, but where people can go missing and people just don't notice because they've maybe gone down that route of life where they don't have family, friends, and it's insane.
Yeah, sad. Yeah.
Frown the cannon. Surely subsidence would be a risk for your house. Funnily enough, I work in the subsidence business, so yeah, you wouldn't get away with that for long in the modern day. Getting loss adjusters coming around going, what's that smell? It smells like rotting corpse. And last bit up on the this new film section. Bruce Todd says in the 70s in the US there were so many of them on the go all the time. So yeah, we'll go on to the next release. Shudder. They're doing their halfway to Halloween celebration with a brand new original horror movie, Virus 32, which comes out this Thursday, wherein a deadly virus breaks out and wreaks havoc. It's coming from a Uruguayan director, Gustavo Hernandez, who did You Shall Not Sleep. I'm not familiar with that one. In Virus 32, a virus breaks out and a chilling massacre rages through the streets of Montevideo. The sick become hunters and only calm their fever by unscrupulously killing all of those not yet infected. Unaware of this, Iris and her daughter spend the day in a sports club where Iris works as a security guard. When the night comes, a fight without mercy is about to begin. Their only hope of salvation arrives when they discover that after each attack, the infected seem to have 32 seconds of peace before charging again. Okay. That could be interesting. I mean, Shudder's track record with new films recently hasn't been great. But does that sound interesting to you at all, Olas?
No.
No.
I'm just trying. I've actually been debating Shudder for a while, and every time I think something looks good, I feel like I just watched that thing, and I think I'd be watching a lot of things that wouldn't be good. I don't know. Maybe it's worth giving a go. I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of things that's subscription based at the moment that, like, even with Disney, I've only got Disney Plus because I'm watching Walking Dead, so it's not like I'm watching anything else. But maybe I'll give Shudder a go. I mean, yeah, if I might find something.
It's worth keeping an eye out for when they have these special offers, like Shudder for 99p a month for 3 months or whatever.
Oh, they do that?
Yeah, they do that with Shudder and Stars. I think I've currently got Shudder for like £2.49 for a few months. I mean, it's normally £4.99, so it's not too bad, but it is really very hit and miss as to what content they have on there. Fran the Cannon says, for a minute I thought this was the 31st sequel to the Jamie Lee Curtis sci-fi horror Virus.
That's a good film.
That's
a film. Really bad, but yeah. Is that the one? Is that the one? No. Is that the one where she's on the ship and they're all turned into robots?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, okay. I got to talk about one scene in there that actually really scared me.
Yeah, go on.
I can't remember who it was. Was it Jamie Lee Curtis? There was someone acting. There was this doorway, and you just see this head it's like that on the side, and it's just bobbing like this. And I don't know why, but that just terrified me. So it was a robot dude, and he had like eye, and he had like this thing coming from his eye. But it was just that thing. I was just like, ugh, because I didn't know what it was. And I was like, something's not right. Yeah.
I really can't remember too much about that film other than it not being good, I'll just say. Now, Bruce Todd has mentioned in the YouTube chat, he says, honestly, Arrow Player is the best for online horror streaming. I keep meaning to check out Arrow Player because...
What's Arrow Player? What is that?
So Arrow are a distribution company, and a lot of the releases of classic 70s, 80s, early 90s horrors will be like Arrow releasing, kind of like back in the day in the early 2000s. Anchor Bay seemed to be like the kind of the go-to for releasing. It's so similar to that. So I know they've got like the Demon films and the Hellraiser films on there. But it's one that I keep meaning to check out for sure. Yeah, I'll have a look because a lot of them as well. Olas have like 7-day free trials, so it's always worth maybe signing up and just cancelling it straight away. So then you get 7 days free.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now moving on to some other bits of news.
I think I think you're looking at me, but you're looking at your computer screen, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm trying to look at all three things. Next up from and Bruce says that they have newer films on there as well, which would be good because I'm always trying to watch new films, and Shudder hasn't been so good recently.
But mind you, actually, in saying that, I mean, we've done indie films, so really, maybe I should look into something and support more indie films because I think they're probably more original ideas than a lot of films that are coming out anyway. No, yeah, maybe
I think
a little bit.
I think there are, but then there's also a lot. Like it's very easy these days to get a film out on a streaming service like Amazon Prime or whatever. So you are almost having to kind of work through more crap to find a good gem. It's not impossible. You will come across films where you're like, how have I never heard of this? This is brilliant.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you are also seeing a lot of films that maybe the poster artwork looks good because they're good at Photoshop, and you watch it and think, oh man, this is...
Oh, do you know what? I miss the days of that. I miss the days of going to a video store, just don't know what the film is. You look at the cover and go, that looks great.
Yeah, pick it up based on the cover art alone.
Yeah.
Well, coming up with a new film that's being released by Lionsgate is a new slasher called Where the Scary Things Are, and a trailer has been released, which I'll just drop a link in the chat. This is again from Bloody Disgusting, and it introduces us to the monster known as Lockjaw. Ooh.
Lockjaw, that's a good name. I like that. Lockjaw. Don't go in there. It's Lockjaw. Locked drawer. I can't get in there. I need the key.
Well, this film's going to be available on digital and DVD June 28th. I imagine that's US release. It's billed as being similar to Stand By Me or The Goonies, but with a deliciously dark twist.
Okay, this piques my interest.
The horror begins as Isla and her high school friends discover a hideous semi-human mutant. They keep it prisoner while shooting repulsive viral videos, but the gang's hunger for likes drives them to film the beast performing murderous acts. When one boy sees that Isla is using the monster's gruesome violence to settle her own vendettas, he threatens to tell the authorities, but is he too late to save his friends? I mean, I've not checked out the trailer yet, but I mean, that sounds like that could be decent.
I'm going to have to write that down so I remember it.
Yeah, Where the Scary Things Are.
The Scary Things Are. Cool.
The grapher said, wasn't Lockjaw a He-Man character? I do remember there being a villain that had like a mechanical jaw.
What's that?
Could well be a He-Man character. There's this will be a quick one because I can just drop the link in the chat. There's a video of Danny Elfman performing This Is Halloween live on stage at Coachella this past weekend. So for fans of Nightmare Before Christmas, Danny Elfman was the composer, Oscar-nominated musician-composer, and he did a set at Coachella and did This Is Halloween. So, yeah, there you go. That's a quick one. Next up, Matthew Lillard, who is known throughout the horror community and also Scooby-Doo. He has launched a studio called Midnight Movie Club, and they're releasing their first film, a vampire movie that's called Let Them Die. So Matthew Lillard, known for, God, what he's been so much. He was in Scream, 13 Ghosts. He was in the Twin Peaks, The Revival, the recent series a couple of years back. And he's launching what's this? Alongside writer-director Bill Werty, Matthew Lillard has launched the first ever decentralized movie studio with Midnight Movie Club, which aims to give the filmmaker power to the people. Essentially, purchasing an NFT will grant you access to the studio's membership board, and you'll be able to make filmmaking decisions alongside other members. As soon as I see NFT, and to be honest, it's a thing I don't know much about. I've got no interesting.
I saw something on a TikTok that somebody went to a machine. It was like a vending machine, and someone bought a color, and it was just the color, and then they scanned the QR code and they owned that color, and I was just like, what is the point of
Yeah.
that? Anyway, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if I'd have pre-read this about NFTs, I'd have gone out. It's not news I need to report on. If maybe people know more on NFTs and
Yeah.
there's a deeper insight there that I just don't appreciate.
Yeah, maybe we're just being ignorant.
Maybe, but then I've seen people going, "Oh, look, I purchased and own this NFT, and it's a piece of dog shit art." I think, okay, cool.
Hey, art is subjective.
Art is subjective, yes, but when it does look like it was made on MS Paint, then
What, DOS version 94?
yeah, exactly. Next up, couple of little quick bits left. Lionsgate are plotting the return of the Leprechaun franchise.
Oh, no way.
Why?
Yes, bring it. I want to see that.
There have been, so again, this is John Squire's Bloody Disgusting. There have been 8 films in the Leprechaun franchise to date, with 2018's Leprechaun Returns most recently heading back to the original movie's timeline in the wake of the reboot Leprechaun Origins 4 years prior. So what's next for the franchise? Well, Lionsgate is actively seeking out pitches for the next Leprechaun movie, so you can expect more from the mischievous horror icon soon. So there isn't even a script written or a story written. They're just going, hey, we'll listen. Tell us what you got for Leprechaun. Oh, God. So, yeah, we've got Leprechaun in Space 2, surely, Frown the Can says. Bruce Todd says nothing will beat In the Hood.
There was a Leprechaun in the Hood?
There was a Leprechaun in the Hood. I think I think Snoop Dogg was in it.
That is gold.
I think that might have been the 4th or the 5th one. I watched the first one is generally quite fun.
Yeah.
The second was a real struggle for me to get through. And I haven't seen any more, to be honest. Maybe it redeems itself, 6 movies later, I don't know.
I knew there were a lot, and I only saw the old one. That was a long time ago as well. I didn't know there was a 2018 remake. Did you say?
Yeah, there was.
I didn't know
there was a
that.
2018 Leprechaun Returns, and there was a reboot that was in must have been 2014 called Leprechaun Origins, and I think Leprechaun Origins had WWE Hornswoggle as the Leprechaun.
Hornswoggle, I know that wrestler. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Hellraiser. They never learn to stop. Yeah, that's.
Yeah. Oh, Hellraiser used to be so good. What's happened with that?
There is a new one coming out, as in one that I think has Clive Barker's involvement. I think what happened with the Hellraiser franchise was the third one, it had become a bit more studio based, although the third one still has some good moments, and the fourth one is all right. But from that point on, I think Inferno is the 5th one. I think from there, it basically became apparent that these were scripts that didn't start off as Hellraiser films, and that Pinhead was thrown in afterwards, just to try and tag the franchise onto it. And from that point, it was then a case of the studio needing to make another film to retain the rights. They're kind of just making the films out of spite, almost. Because
I don't know, I got this vibe that it felt like they were trying to humanize Pinhead.
They sort of do in the second one to a degree, because you've almost got you've got a big bad in that, and they kind of do to a degree, but they're more just giving his backstory. But then his full-on villain again in the third one. But again, they are also, from memory, also bringing in a bit more of the human element of him. I can't really remember the third one that well. But yeah, this new one, I don't think they've had Doug Bradley as Pinhead for a few years now. I haven't seen many of the later ones, to be honest. But there is a new one coming out, and I think Clive Barker is involved to some degree. So I'll reserve judgment, but I think they're actually putting some effort into this one. It seems.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, Bruce Todd says after 4, just stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fully agree with that.
I stopped at 4.
Yeah, fourth Fourth is fine. With the whole jumping around time and learning about the lemon
wait,
shard box or the
I'm getting them confused.
lemon
What
shard
was the one when
configuration.
they were in like the morgue sort of setting? It was just like it was like not a hospital setting,
Oh,
but
that's the second one. That's Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. I
right.
love that one. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I think I'm getting them all confused. I feel like they're all. There was a latest one where they had to go into a body and he puts his hand in a body and they're like on an operating table as well.
That could be Judgment, which Bruce Todd in the chat has said Judgment was all right. To be honest, yeah, I think the most recent one, where Pinhead's in it, but there's also another character who's called like the Auditor. And to be honest, it was all right. I mean, if you go in with it low expectations, it's okay. It's this kind of story of insanity. There's a detective looking into a particular case, but as the story unfolds, you don't know how involved he is with this, Cenobites and all that malarkey.
Cenobites, that was it. I was trying to
Yeah.
think of the name for them.
Yeah, it's an odd franchise. It's one where there's more bad than good. Yeah. So there's a new one. There is a new one coming out. I think it's scheduled for this year, but we shall see. And then finally up on the news, Lionsgate is reportedly... So this is Lionsgate again, bloody hell. They're reportedly looking to relaunch the Blair Witch Project franchise. Found footage masterpiece The Blair Witch Project came along and changed the game back in 1999, subsequently spawning its own sprawling universe of media, including official follow-up films in 2000 and 2016. I did like Blair Witch, the 2016 one. I know it wasn't everyone's cup of tea.
That did have some good moments.
There's a
It did.
there's a particular bit when that girl has one of the effigies, the little kind of wooden people thing, and she snaps it, and then that snaps this woman in half because I think her hair was linked to it or something. There's a particular moment that I remember thinking, bloody hell, that came out of left field.
I felt like so Blair Witch was interesting because that you had a lot of theories surrounded by that. I don't know if the computer games that were released around that time if they were considered canon, but I'm gonna just talk about the film.
Yeah.
And I like this theory that was going around that was it Josh and the other guy that they were actually the murderers and they lured Heather to kill her.
Yeah, I've heard that theory.
And I really like that. And then Blair Witch 2016, I felt like they just explained everything. And then I guess can we talk about spoilers and stuff?
Yeah, I mean both films are a few years old now, so yeah. Spoiler territory for Blair Witch.
Okay, just in case, you never know.
Yeah.
And it's that thing where they see the long thing, is the long person crawling.
Yeah.
And there was someone said that was Heather. And I saw a theory on that, but I also saw a theory that it was the woman who was trialed for being the witch because she was stretched.
Yeah, she was hung up in a tree, and didn't they attach things to her limbs?
Yeah, that was it. That was the one. But I think they revealed too much of what was happening because they made it known in that film that time doesn't happen as you perceive time. It happens differently, and the witch can control the time and the forest. And I just thought they brought all these supernatural elements into it. And this one scene which really confused me was the main character. I can't remember the name.
No.
And he's looking through the wall, and you see all the light coming through the wall.
Okay, yeah,
and then
yeah.
Do you remember? And I was like thinking to myself, "Oh man, are they going to reveal aliens or something?" Like I thought that's where they were going to go, and then it just went dark, and I was just like, "What was that about?" And apparently, they were just showing you that the witch can basically move it to night and day in quick succession.
Yeah.
But it did have some good things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not everyone's cup of tea, and yeah, I mean, I quite liked. I did quite enjoy it, and I also liked how they revealed it. That initially it was being put forward as a new Adam Wingard film called The Woods, and then I think it might have been Comic-Con or some big convention. They released the full trailer, and as the trailer unfolded, it then had the reveal of the Blair Witch title, which I think was quite cool.
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, So, according to Jeff Schneider over on The Ankler, Lionsgate is reportedly looking to relaunch the Blair Witch Project franchise set 6 years after Blair Witch was released in theatres. So again, kind of similar to Lionsgate with Leprechaun, they're looking for pitches from people to go back into the Blair Witch woods. Since a good IP is never truly dead in the streaming age. The 2016 sequel, which is directed by Adam Wingard, wasn't exactly a big hit at the box office, but the original film's directors have never given up hope on someday returning to the franchise to pump new life into it. Oddly enough, creators Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez didn't have much creative input on either of the follow-up films, despite having a wealth of ideas. They've talked about everything from a sequel to a Rustin Parr, Ellie Kedwood standalone movies. They're hungry to dive in and expand upon the Blair Witch universe, but none of these projects have ever come to life on the screen, as Lionsgate, has had different plans. For me, I kind of feel like Blair Witch Project was lightning in a bottle. Because everything worked so well with it. We talked on the show before about
it was time, wasn't it? It was the time it was at.
Yeah, the marketing campaign added such an area of mystique to it. As you said, there's a number of different ways you can view it. You can look at it as, those two were in on it as the killers. Rustin Parr was somehow, his spirit had somehow maybe possessed someone and was involved because of the story about Rustin Parr. Taking the kids and making one of them face the corner while he killed the other one. There's a lot of kind of rich history interwoven into that. But Blair Witch, Book of Shadows, to be honest, I can't really remember. I didn't really enjoy it.
It had good moments. It did have some good moments, but a lot of it was trash.
Yeah, it's one of those IPs where sometimes I do think you could just have a film and it doesn't need to have a sequel. One of those films is one that we're going to talk a bit later on about, one of your picks. I'll mention it when we get to it, but yeah, some films I think it's fine. Just, on one hand, it'd be good to explore the expanded universe and how things are, how they are, what's the origin of this curse, shall we say. But sometimes you don't need to know that. You can just have the film as its own contained story. Yeah.
Oh, there was something about Book of Shadows. So the film that was released wasn't the original intended film.
Okay.
Something about, I can't quite remember. But it was messed around with a lot. I can't quite remember. I saw a thingy on it. Sorry, what?
There's a documentary on YouTube that explains about the intentions for the film, and I think there was a lot of studio interference.
Yeah.
I'll if I can find the name of the documentary, I'll pop it onto the Ministry of Horror Discord and Twitter and that. But yeah, I think it's potentially one of those films that may have been a lot better, but the studio had their say. And we got what we got. So that's it for the news. There's no MOH book club this week, as we're doing that every second Tuesday of the month. But Olas, the book we're currently reading, you mentioned earlier on, actually last month's book, which was we read through The Ritual, which was the film, the adaptation that Rafe Spall was in. The book was excellent. Really enjoyed it. This time we're looking at a Richard Lemon book called Funhouse or Funland. I think it's Funland. So we're discussing the book kind of once a month because I'm not going to read a book in a week. I'm a slow reader.
Audio tape, Tezz, audio tape.
Do you know what? I should have thought about that because my Audible credit came up this week and I haven't used it yet. So that's probably a good shout.
There you go.
So we've got no MOH book club, but I have got a few reviews now. God damn, we've already been talking for 50 minutes, so I'm going to whittle through these reviews pretty quick. The first one, now I'm going to have to give a shout out to the Gruff because it was his mention of this last week that I saw this for rental on Amazon Prime for 99p, and that is the comedy horror film Black Friday. So Black Friday is the 2021 action horror comedy set around the eponymous. I think it's between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Is it Black Friday? It's something like that. There's a particular date for it. But it's written by Andy Griskoviak, directed by Casey Tebow, and it stars horror staples such as Devon Sawyer, Michael J. White, and, of course, Bruce Campbell, the king of the Evil Dead franchise. Do you know what? This, for a 99p rental, this was a lot of fun. It had a real throwback feel to it, like... How can I put it? Festive, campy horror comedy, kind of like, I want to say, Gremlins. It's not, there's no kind of theme to it to Gremlins, like the creatures involved are more kind of akin to alien zombies. But it had that real kind of lost charm. There's a charm to it. I think that's the best way that I can put it.
Would it be like if National Lampoon did a horror?
It's so it's not too much into the comedy realm. It's not so much kind of like that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like the era of those early 90s, like I want to say maybe like Home Alone, but there's nothing story similar to Home Alone, but just kind of that festive feel.
Yeah.
Is it anything like Cooties? Yes, Fran the Cannon. Yes, there's a film with Elijah Wood. I can't remember who else is in it, maybe David Koechner, but there's a comedy horror film called Cooties, and it's got that kind of feel to it, definitely. But in this, basically, it's set in it's called an All Mart, so think basically big Tesco's, that sort of thing, big department store, and there's a parasitic organism that's attacking, and it's taking over the consumers who are going mental for sales in Black Friday. You've got Devon Sawyer, who's known to the horror community for Final Destination and Idle Hands and the recent Chucky TV series. He is playing as your typical slacker hero, but he's in his 40s. He's divorced with his 2 kids. He's trying to crack onto this 20-year-old girl at work, and it's one of those things where they don't try and play that off as, well, you know, we'll ignore the fact that he's playing 22 when he's 45. They mention it like, come on, man, you're talking about you want to see your kids all the time, but you're here trying to neck on with a 20-year-old girl on the front desk. It's, I mean, Bruce Campbell is great in it. He always is. He's always great. Yeah, Bruce Todd says it's got Bruce the Chin Campbell in it. I'm already sold.
The chin.
Yeah, if it's still 99p on Amazon, definitely give this a rent. Without kind of saying too much, yeah, it's basically a store under siege. These workers are working at the store on Black Friday, but they realise that actually they're sort of been taken advantage of a bit because this Christmas bonus they're all expecting isn't actually available, and you know, there's people assessing, do I, you know, should I be here or should I be at home with my family? Well, what kind of family do I have? You know, is this actually a happier place for me than there? So there's some mature themes in there, but it's I mean, where's my score? Where's my score for this? I am going to up it from a 6.5 to 7 out of 10. Definitely, it's got some good effects in it as well. It's clearly a low budget horror. But it's one of those ones that I do think if you watch it, you'll think, why didn't I hear anything about this? Why didn't it have any kind of buzz? Yeah, it's a bit of a shame that it's just kind of seemed to fly under the radar. I don't know if it had a bigger release in America, maybe, but here in the UK, I mean, Olas, did you ever hear of Black Friday?
I saw it on the Microsoft Store on my Xbox. I've added it to my watch list. Just because I didn't know what it was, and I thought, it could be interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, they're kind of like, it's basically like alien zombies. They're kind of similar to...
The Watch?
No, not so much The Watch, although The Watch is brilliant. They're kind of like the alien zombies from, I want to say it's Night of the Comet or Day of the Comet.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, those kind of white-eyed, almost like dead-eyed zombies, but they've got an alien infection. They shoot this white goo out their mouth.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, lovely. So that is Black Friday, 7 out of 10. Next up in the reviews, recent release on Netflix. I saw the trailer for it, and it was a trailer that the first part of the trailer intrigued me. The second part, I started thinking, oh, what's the quality of this one going to be like? That is the Netflix film Choose or Die. So the the premise of this is quite interesting, and it's got a decent cast. It's got Robert Englund doing a cameo of the voice of this game, but essentially an old cassette tape game. I mean, do you remember cassette tape games before, like I don't know what console or home
Spectrum?
computer? Yeah, like a Spectrum, like, you know, somehow they have a video game on them, but they're tape cassettes basically. There's an old game found called Cursor, and basically it's kind of like a text-based game, but what's happening in the game is also happening in real life. So you could turn to pick up a drink, and in the game it would say you decide to pick up a drink, even though how's it know that that's happening? But it becomes quite nefarious, where it will basically say, one of the key scenes in the trailer is a woman drops a glass on the floor in a diner, and then it's like, choose, does she eat the glass or does she not, or something like that. And the girl, the main character in this, what's her name? Thea. No, that's the mum. I don't know what the girl's called in this. Kayla, that's it. She's seeing this unfold, going, I don't know what's happening, panic, panic, panic. But because she has to choose or die, so if she doesn't choose, make a decision, it will kill her. The girl starts munching on the glass. The problem with this film, and correct me if you think I'm wrong here, Olas, I don't think there's yet been a good horror or basically film based around a video game. So not a video game adaptation, but a film that plays the central theme or the central antagonist or whatever is a video game. There's been a few, like Ready or Not or something like that. There's been a couple that I've seen. There's one with like Frankie Muniz from Malcolm in the Middle, but none of them I don't think have actually been any good. Yeah, I can't remember exactly what his one was called, but that one might be called like Play or Die, or I don't know. But they've all been kind of crap, and this one didn't click for me. Have you seen Choose or Die, Olas?
I haven't, but now that you've said your review, I'm interested in watching it. Because the premise sounds good. It sounds like a good premise.
The premise sounds good. And to be honest, as it gets further into it and it starts explaining the connection, I don't know. I think it's just the execution, to be honest. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with the script. It's got good actors in it, but I don't necessarily think some of the acting is great. Asa Butterfield is one of the leads, and he's in Ender's Game and Sex Ed on Netflix. He's a good actor, but his role in this is the kind of the dopey friend that fancies the lead girl but doesn't have a chance. Yeah. It's not that great. Eddie Marsan, who's a brilliant English actor, he has a key role in this film. Oh, Fran the Can says the Frankie Muniz one is called Stay Alive. I've not seen it in years. I don't remember it being very good, but that was one where there's like if you die in the game, then you die in real life, you know, kind of a knockoff of like Nightmare on Elm Street.
Right.
I mean, well, my score for this, and it may be a bit harsh, maybe I need to rewatch it, I don't know. It's 4.5 out of 10. I think the finale of it was quite interesting, because the finale does get quite creepy and it rounds things out fairly nicely. But I just found this one dull. I found this one dull, is all I can say, really. I'm moving on to... We've got two more, but one of them is a retro review. Now, this is a recent release on Shudder. Now, Shudder has been getting a bit of a bashing from me and my reviews of newer films recently. But I thought I'd give this one a go. I thought the trailer was decent. And you know what? I really enjoyed it. It's called The Cellar, and it stars Alicia Cuthbert, who... what's she been in horror? She was in House of Wax, which I don't care what anyone says. I enjoy that for a early 2000s slasher with some dopey decisions.
I give it a thumbs up.
You know what? I thought House of Wax was okay. It's not great, but it's a popcorn horror, really, at the end of the day. The Cellar is a 2022 Irish supernatural horror film. It was written and directed by Brendan Muldowney, and it stars Alicia Cuthbert and Eoin Macken. I don't know who that is in the film. Mainly, this is centered on Alicia Cuthbert's character. So it follows a family whose daughter has disappeared in the cellar of the large estate home that they've moved into. Her daughter mysteriously vanishes in the cellar, and Kira Woods, played by Alicia Cuthbert, soon discovers that there is an ancient and powerful entity controlling their home that she will have to face or risk losing her family's soul forever. The entity is tied to the Leviathan as well as Baphomet, a pagan deity associated with the occult. Do you know what? I turned on. I was initially kind of confused by why half the cast had Irish accents, and it seemed to be in America. Like, okay, so put it this way: Alicia Cuthbert, she is Canadian, I believe, or American. She's around the North America part of her origin, and her daughter, who is played by Abby Fitz, I believe, is also American. But then you've no idea what accent her husband has because it seems to change. And the son is clearly Irish. So I was very distracted thinking, is he adopted or is that a son from a different marriage? Because why would one child have a very strong Irish accent and the other half of the family are clearly very American?
Isn't some parts of some parts of America Irish based?
I think they have Irish heritage, but I don't know if that would transcend into having a different accent in the family.
Okay.
I don't know. Remote house, a cellar, a demon. I'm getting Lord of Tears vibes. I don't know if I've seen Lord of Tears. But basically, it's basically this mother. She's looking for her daughter. Her daughter, who I think has a fear of the dark, which ties into this whole. There's like a counting theme to the film. Basically, when the mother has a very high-pressure job. I think it's in advertising or something like that. I don't know. And the daughter is a bit snotty. She's getting bullied, as we find out later. She's had a bit of a tough time, but she's got a bit of an attitude. She has to go into the cellar to turn the power back on because of a power shortage, but I believe she has a fear of the dark. So her mum's saying, right, just calm yourself, count to 10. There's 10 steps going down to the cellar. But while she's counting going down, she's got past 10, she's got past 20, she's got past like 70. Something's clearly amiss here, and she's gone missing in the house. And there's these strange markings and equations that are carved into the stone around the house. And her search takes her down the occult route, trying to find her daughter. In terms of new Shudder films, which have been really not brilliant in my opinion, things like Hellbenders, Slapface, the shit that I watched last week, Night's End, which I was just it was really bad. This was a good step up. It's anything kind of based around hell I always find quite interesting. And as the film gets further into its mythology and into the finale, it's quite adventurous. Not in terms of adventure, but in terms of what they've gone for. They haven't just hinted at something and then shied away. Like, we do get almost a glimpse into hell, is all I'll say. But I really enjoyed this. 7 out of 10. Now, I am talking myself hoarse, but it's coming up to your turn to do a lot of talking soon, Olas.
Hey.
The final film that I've got on review is I wanted to do a retro review, and Shudder have bought on some retro films. I say retro, this is like 1991, but goddamn, I do love this. Subspecies.
What is that? I've never seen that.
It's a very weird film, but I love it. The sequel is excellent. I think the sequel's even better. But this is a 1991 horror film. It's a Charles Band production. His company, are they called New Moon? Oh, Full Moon Studios. Now, if you've never heard of Full Moon Studios, they've done a lot of these really campy, over-the-top horrors, such as Puppet Master, the Puppet Master films. They have a chat. There's these awful clown horrors called Killjoy. There's been so many of them, but they've got a channel on Prime. I'm tempted to do the 7-day free trial. They've got Ginger Dead Man, which I think stars Gary Busey. as a murderous gingerbread man. They got a film called Guyver about a robot suit from space that I think's got Mark Hamill in it.
Brilliant.
It's really just over the top insane. Just to give you an idea, the guy in the background of that poster is a vampire called Radu. It's quite influenced, I would say, by Nosferatu, because there's lots of scenes of him with his really elongated fingers with huge sharp claws on them. Lots of shadows going down these Romanian and Transylvanian settings and ruins. Those little beasts that are carrying up the woman in the poster. So how do I explain this? He can break his fingers off, and his fingers will turn into these little mutant men that are like half-foot tall. Also, Radu is a real perv, because whenever he attacks a woman, as a vampire, he always somehow also manages to flop a breast out every time, which is just... That gives you an idea of the era of the film. But to be honest, it's a lot of fun. It's got a small cameo from Angus Scrimm in it, who was the Tall Man in the Phantasm series of films, which the first 3 Phantasms are great. They're really just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks horrors. Fran the Can says there's been 3 Ginger Dead Man films. I didn't even know there was sequels, but yeah, Subspecies. To kind of put it simply, you've got this evil vampire called Radu. He has a father who's kind of, I think, like half vampire, half human, because Radu has a half brother who's one of the heroes of the film. But his father has this item called the Bloodstone, which has all of the saints' blood in it, and it stops vampires from attacking the villagers. Radu is evil. He doesn't give a crap about any of that. He kills his father, and at the same time, this group of girls are arriving on a trip to, I think it's Transylvania. It's either I think it was shot in Romania, but it's Transylvania, whatever. They're there to do like a history project, but they come across the evil vampire Radu, who just goes haywire, attacking them, and he wants to basically become the new king of vampires. There's sword fights. There's nudity, which is one of the things that happens a lot in this film. There's these little gremlin things. There's beheadings. There's stakings. It's a lot of fun. I'd just say it's one of those franchises that just flew under the radar. I didn't really get much exposure, especially here in the UK. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. I don't care. I really enjoyed it.
Is Subspecies, did that help you and Pete with Harvest? is that your influence?
Do you know what?
Inspiration.
Do you know what? I'm so the thing that we discussed prior to the call going live, I never write those particular scenes in the scripts. They get written by the other writer, because apparently that's what distributors want. That's what helps sell films. I don't know about that, but that's all I'll say. But yeah, Subspecies. There's been Subspecies 2, 3. There's a spin-off called Vampire Journals. Subspecies 4 for Bloodstorm in 1998. Apparently, they are doing a new one this year, which, considering the last film was in 1998, I mean, I'm all up for it, but when there's been such a big gap in a very under-the-radar franchise, I mean, it can't be good, can it? I mean, how many franchises are there that... I mean, what other kind of similar level franchises could you say that there are that have such a big gap in their productions? I don't know. But there's a new one coming out. Yeah, I'd give it a watch. This one is currently on Shudder. The second one and the fourth one, I don't know why the third one seems to be missing. They're available on Full Moon's streaming platform, which you can get a 7-day free trial of, which I think I might, because I do. The second Subspecies is brilliant. Yeah, that's the retro review. Now, on to the main event. And I'm going to rest my voice for a little bit.
No, carry on talking. It's good.
So Olas, when we
Yeah.
discussed doing a show, you coming on to do a show, and what kind of topic you
Well, I
would be
really don't
interested
know
in
why.
talking
Because
about.
like I'm not really, I haven't really sort of made it anywhere yet, but I appreciate it.
No, because you're good. You're a good actor. You're a good
Oh, yeah.
pal.
Oh,
You know,
thank you. Yeah.
entertaining. Um,
Thank
so yeah, Bruce Todd, Full Moon has streaming. I'm sold. Yeah, 7-day free trial. Full Moon streaming is on Amazon Prime. It's kind of one of their channels, like Shudder or Stars. Check it out. They've got loads on there. I think they've got all like 20 odd Killjoy clown films. God, good lord.
What's the clown film when they're from space? Is that Clowns from Space?
That's Killer Clowns from Outer Space, yeah.
Right.
That's another film where the director's been talking for years about doing a sequel. And I love Killer Clowns from Outer Space, but I mean, it's one film that came out in like 89 or something like that. It's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, that's great. One of the subjects you wanted to talk about was paranoia and unnerving, the unnerving feeling and tension in horror. So you gave me 5 films. I haven't seen all of them. I've seen 3 of them. But we're going to start off with one of the ones that I haven't seen.
Okay.
This is, let me just get the picture up for it, the 2001, I believe, film called Pulse.
Yeah.
Talk to me about it.
Wow. Okay. So it's a Japanese horror. I don't want to say the original title because I think I'm going to butcher it. But we know it as Pulse. And I came across it just appeared in my recommendation of a YouTuber talking about one of his favorite scary horror scenes in a movie. And I watched it and I was like, I need to watch this movie. So I did, and there's just something about the creepiness vibe of the way they do the ghosts that I think they've done it so well that no one has really replicated the way they've done it in the manner that they've done it. So how do I explain that? So with horror, there's danger, isn't there? You know, if there's a ghost, there's going to be some form of impending danger. Whereas with this, you didn't know if there was danger or not. You didn't know what they were going to do. You didn't know what the ghosts were capable of doing. And that I found fascinating because it was just the way they've done it. And there was this one scene. Oh, it was so creepy. So the ghosts appeared like shadows. It's like a shadow on the wall, and then they appear. So you sort of know that they're there from this shadow, and this ghost just walks, but the walking is really strange. So it's like this, and but it's a long scene, so the camera's just there, and they've got the lighting going, so you just know someone's walking, and then they do this person does this trip, and it's like this ballerina like movements, but and then it just starts going towards the camera in these weird sort of motion. And I'm sat there watching it and I'm thinking, this is creepy because I don't know if that ghost wants to kill that person. I don't know if that ghost wants to be known. You just don't know. And the character that was confronted by this ghost was just terrified, just absolutely terrified. And all through the film, oh man, I'm trying to remember the plot now. It was something to do with computers, so they could see the dead. But one of the characters had this theory that there was. It kind of reminds me of this line from Ghostbusters: "When there's no more room in hell, the dead will rise." Or was that from the Bible? I think it's from the Bible.
I think it may be a Bible quote, but I believe it was in Ghostbusters, and I'm pretty sure it's also in Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, okay.
One of the Dead films. Yeah, it's quite a famous quote.
Oh, so yeah, it made me think of that quote. So, and then ghosts started spilling into, say, our world, or the human world, or the living world. That makes more sense. But they could see them through computers. And there was one character who didn't know how to work the internet, and there was this one bit that made me laugh. so he's talking in Japanese. It comes up as some subtitles, and you can tell this actor is reading the privacy notice, and it just says in the subtitles, I don't care what this is, and just clicks OK. And I thought that's quite funny because it doesn't matter where you are in the world, nobody really cares about the privacy
Yeah,
policy.
terms
You
and
just click
conditions.
OK anyway. But he was seeing this thing on screen, and the thing was, the ghosts, they weren't doing anything. It was just the camera would just be in a position, and I don't know if it was intentional, but some of the camera angles were like at an angle.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's a trick, or,
Kind of
or,
like
or
a Dutch angle.
what's a Dutch angle?
Dutch angle is kind of where sometimes it's quite low, but it's basically off kilter to the side.
No, it's not as prominent as that.
Okay, it's more
It's
subtle.
it, it's a lot more subtle. I
Okay.
don't know if that's why I don't know if it's intentional, but a lot of the ghosts, they were just having these weird movements, but they would do nothing. There was nothing to say that they were going to hurt someone, but you just didn't know, and you just see these things that were paranormal, and you don't know what's going on. And a lot of the film, yeah, it did have its moments where they were quite boring. And the plot line, I do need to go back and watch it. The thing is, I picked this for those specific scenes.
Yeah.
But I think I'm butchering the storyline, because it basically ended up that it was apocalyptic, and the
Okay.
ghosts were entering the world. So they had a really cool twist as well. But yeah, it was just so unsettling, just the way these ghosts were moving and appeared. And the thing is, the the scenes were set that you knew when a ghost was going to appear. You knew it, and when it appeared, you would just wait because you were so you would for me, I say you, it's really my opinion, isn't it really? That I was almost confused because I knew something was going to happen, and sometimes it did and sometimes it didn't. But it was the scenes were shot in such a way that you could reflect on what was really happening. So rather than there's a ghost, rah, it wouldn't do anything like that. It would sit on this moment, and then me as the viewer would go, okay, so that's a ghost. What's going to happen now? And it would make me think. My mind would then go, is it going to do this? Is it going to do that? What's it going to do? It's going to jump at the screen, isn't it? Of course, it's going to jump at the screen. And it didn't do any of those things. It just did its own little thing, and you were just, I was just mesmerized by the way they did these ghosts, and I thought it was fantastic. So yeah, Pulse, definitely worth watching, but watch it alone in the dark because that was creepier.
So to be honest, I think it's kind of beneficial for me that you mentioned you remember particular scenes, but not the general overall kind of entire plot. I usually like watching films without knowing very much at all. I prefer to go in quite blind.
I'm sorry.
No, because I'm basically saying that I haven't seen this film. I don't know a lot about it, and so I don't know the overarching kind of plot. But I'm definitely intrigued. I definitely will. I'll have a little look after the show, see if it's on Amazon, see if it's on streaming.
Yeah, especially especially as you've done your directing as well, and you're learning stuff, or you have been learning stuff. Like a lot of the lighting in it is incredible, and it's low budget as well. Some of the cuts are a bit sudden, like between noises and stuff. So it does feel like a low budget film, but I think you'd appreciate the amount they've gone into with the lighting. I think you'd like that.
So I'm just seeing in the chat.
We got people here still.
Yeah. So yeah, Bruce Todd said Pulse is great. Ignore the remake. He said it's the best part of the late 90s, early 2000s J horror, chocked full of atmosphere that was fantastically creepy. Fran the Can has said, I've not seen the original, only the US version. Olas, have you seen the US remake of Pulse?
No, I haven't. But also, I think if there's a Japanese horror or a Korean horror, I will always watch that first rather than the American remake because I find they butcher a lot of the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've not seen extensive J or K horror. I've seen some of the big hitters, Audition, Ringu. I think maybe The Grudge might be the only one where I've only seen the American one. And I know there's been quite a few, but I've only seen the first one of that. I've not seen many of the franchise, but I'd probably have to say that the Ring film, the US remake came kind of close to capturing some of the fear in the Japanese original. I've still not seen the third part of the Japanese trilogy, but the first and the second, Ring and Ringu, or Ringu and Ringu 2, I think are just excellent kind of hallmarks of J horror. And yeah, Pulse definitely sounds very interesting. I'll be checking that one out.
Yeah, very, very creepy.
Now onto a bit of a double bill, but we're going to split them up in terms of the director. It's a John Carpenter film. This one is very much in the realm of paranoia.
Yeah.
This one is starring the late great Roddy Piper. They Live.
Classic.
They Live. Now, John Carpenter is kind of one of the kings of horror, really, and this isn't so much a horror. This is kind of a bit more of a action sci-fi, but the paranoia element is key. Is key to the film because we got aliens walking among us, and unless we got these special sunglasses, we can't see. So yeah, talk to me about They Live.
Okay. Well, so when you said about paranoia originally, I for some reason They Live just like straight away popped to my mind, and then I was like, I was trying to think. I was like, I can't think for any moment when they were paranoid, and I thought what the whole thing was that they were just surrounded by this complete other world that you couldn't see unless you had these glasses. So I think for maybe the first half an hour, 25 minutes of the movie, to be fair, it has been a while since I've watched this as well. He's learning all this, and he's like, Roddy Piper's like, shit, there's a different world. Something's not right. And I think they did this scene where, was it he thought he was crazy at one point, or did he say he was crazy?
There's the chatter picking up on the particular scene where he's trying to convince his friend from the construction yard that,
and he beats him up.
They have that like 7-minute or 8-minute long just straight up fight, which if you're a fan of South Park, there's a particular episode that parodies that entire fight. I'm pretty sure it's between I don't want to say the title of the episode because it might get like a ban on the show, but it's between Jimmy and the guy on crutches. I can't remember his name, but they have a fight, and it is the They Live fight.
Oh, okay.
Down to the bit when one of them goes to hit the other one in the nuts, and they block it and goes, "You dirty son of a bitch."
But I think that film, this film They Live, it just resonates with me because, okay, I'm not saying that they're true what they're saying, but a lot of the things is consume on demand, blah 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 blah. So the messages that you see when you put on the glasses, I think that relates to a lot of things in real life, and that film kind of helped me open my eyes to maybe look at things from different angles and different views, and things aren't always as they seem. Like, for example, there's a television show, they want to do what they can to get the best ratings, but you might see it differently, but it might be cut in a certain way that you're seeing something, but it's not how it happens. So those sort of little things. And the media, products, you name it, people want you to buy their products. That's it. So it's just these adverts that I just like consume, and I just think that leads a lot of paranoia into our own lives as well. But I think They Live, it's a great. What can I say about They Live? I mean, it's a classic, right? What can I say about that that's not already been said?
It is excellent. I mean, to me, it kind of was another example of showing John Carpenter's range, because it's not out and out horror. It's, you don't have a boogeyman. You don't have a killer car. I love the aspect, kind of like what you were saying, where initially it's looking like, have I got the details up to get the character name? Nada, which is a weird name, but Roddy Piper's character, he's kind of almost like seeming like a tinfoil hat type, where after discovering these sunglasses and then seeing that not everything is as it seems, not taking things on face value, initially, people are thinking, well, what are you on about? What are you talking about? You sound crazy. But then the church where he's found these glasses, that also is a front for this kind of cell that are aware of these aliens and trying to fight back. That, I'm pretty sure, then gets bulldozed or gets raided, and then the homeless area that he's staying at, that gets bulldozed. So you're thinking, well, clearly people don't want the general populace to know what is going on, and that the wool is being covered over their eyes. So yeah, it is steeped in paranoia. There's obviously the fight scene, but there's that great scene where he goes to, it's almost like a rally, like a underground meeting, and the lady who he thought he could confide in, played by Meg Foster, I can't remember her character's name, she turns up at this meeting, and then you kind of get a hint that maybe she's not all she seems. Maybe, who can you trust? Because that meeting gets raided and people die, and they're down to the bare bones when they get to the finale, trying to take down this signal that's masking everything. I mean,
oh my god, I completely forgot about that bit.
Oh, it's
a film that I picked, and I just forgot like one of the main bits about it.
In terms of comedy,
that's embarrassing. Sorry, everyone.
In terms of comedy as well, for John Carpenter's chops, there's the bit at the very end, again, spoilers, but this film is, very old now, when the signal's gone out and you've got a guy at the bar who doesn't realise that now everyone can see he's an alien. There's that couple who I believe are having sex, and the woman then notices, oh, actually, this guy's face is not a normal face. He's basically got his skin missing, because now the wool has been lifted. But
were they aliens, though?
I always assumed that they were aliens, or is it a different dimension?
That's what I wondered.
So let's have a look. So Frank and Nada run into Gilbert. At the meeting, they're given contact lenses to replace sunglasses and learn that the aliens are using global warming to make Earth more like their own planet and are depleting the Earth's resources for their own gain. So yeah, they're kind of like, and this would probably be an honourable mention for myself, kind of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's an alien force coming to our planet. They've kind of taken, and I suppose also like War of the Worlds, it's an alien force that's taken up all the resources from the planet they're currently on, coming to ours to kind of do the same thing and integrate themselves into our society, so no one fights. I mean, War of the Worlds is a bit different, but Invasion of the Body Snatchers is kind of similar to They Live. They're trying to take over from the inside.
I've just realised something. I've chosen 2 John Carpenter films, haven't I?
You have. We're not going to do the next one just yet, but again, like this, I was really pleased to see on your list, and the other John Carpenter film, I was very pleased to see on your list. But what we're going to come to next is another one that I've not seen, and I'll be honest, the only reason haven't seen this, I'm not a fan of the main actor, Joel Edgerton. I don't know what it is that I saw him in that I didn't like, but that's the main reason why I haven't watched the film. It could be a case of get over your bullshit and just watch it because it's a good film. But that is the A24 release, and we love A24 Studio on here. It Comes at Night. I know nothing about this. Tell me about this film.
Right. So, right off the bat, this film was advertised in a way that you thought, spoilers obviously, that the film was advertised in such a way that you thought there was a monster, but there is no monster, or you don't know if there's a monster, or maybe there is a monster, but you're pretty sure there isn't a monster. And it's post-apocalyptic, although I think it's a post-apocalyptic. I think you can only go from what the characters are telling you in terms of exposition, but essentially you don't know if it's true, because You only really see a family. I can't remember their names. I'm so sorry. I'm so bad with names. What sort of
Um,
actor am I when I forget names?
Paul and his wife Sarah and their teenage son
Travis?
Travis.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yes, it was Travis. Okay, yeah. So Paul, Sarah, and Travis, they're a family and they've got a dog. They're living in this house. Um, Interestingly, I forgot to mention this is a lot of the story is based around a red door because the red door is the exit to the house to the outside world. So that's a plot point, the red door. And I forgot to say that in Pulse, they put red tape round some of the doors.
Okay.
So red seems to be a theme.
Yeah.
It's not relevant, but um, so it starts off with is it the granddad? Do you know I should have bloody my memory's been terrible. Is it an age thing? I don't know.
Sarah's father Bud contracts the disease.
Yeah. That's it. Okay, yes, because I remember watching it and he goes, "See you later, bud." Oh no, he says goodbye, bud, before he shoots him. And I was like, "Oh, why is he saying goodbye, bud, to the granddad? That seems weird." But that makes sense. Yeah, so he contracts this disease. And this disease you bleed out, but it's highly contagious. So the characters are really suspicious of anyone they come across in the world, anyone or anything, and they only really come across two guys and this other guy and his uh, wife or girlfriend, I can't remember, and their son. So the very, very small cast. It's
Okay.
a very, very small cast. But this virus is a real thing. And the dad, he is so on edge. Like throughout the film, he's just, do you know, I'm looking this way, but I'm just talking into my hands. So I realize I'm facing that way. I should really probably
That's all right.
face it. But the dad is just constantly on edge. I mean, this other guy, I can't remember his name, but he breaks into the house, and the dad is just like constantly on edge. He's like, "Are you sick?" Basically hits him with a gun, ties him up outside. He waits a couple of days just to make sure that he's fishing for a story from him. He wants to know that this person isn't going to leave, come back with a group of people, kill him for food and water, and kill his family. You know.
So is it kind of like, when I say post-apocalyptic, I don't mean apocalyptic event, but like kind of it's the world's kind of gone to shit. Kind of like, I suppose, like, you know, the waking up in The Walking Dead, where not zombies, but you know what I mean. It's like this: the world has
Yeah,
changed, and now people are kind of
but
out
this
for
is
themselves.
yes, but this is why I'm. This is what makes me think that perhaps they don't know what's going on because I mean I'm sure there's loads of theories and I should really probably go on Reddit and have a look. But there is something out there in the woods. There has to be something out there because the dog runs off and then it's killed by something off screen. No,
Okay.
no, sorry, no, it's not killed. It's not killed. It just stops barking off screen. And then a day or so later, it appears in the room that goes out. So you got basically a hallway. You got a hallway. If you imagine a hallway,
Yeah.
and then you've got a locked door, and then you've got another room where the red door is, and then that leads to outside. It's the only way in and out of the house, basically.
Okay.
Um, and the dog just appears, but it's infected. So, and there's this when he sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. I'm trying to I'm remembering things as they sort of appear. Um, and when he's got that guy tied up, and he's trying to get information out of him, I can't remember his name. He basically decides that he believes his story, and he's gonna go with him to get his wife and his son, and they're attacked along the way by people with guns, basically. But the whole movie is this dad, the main character. He's paranoid. He's like he thinks the guy knew the people that had killed him, even though he was trying to save himself and punching one of the attackers.
Hmm.
The dad was still, or the dad of Travis was still asking him if he knew the people, but he was just like, yeah. So it's the guy. He's such a good actor. I mean, Tez, just for the acting alone is absolutely
We're
phenomenal.
talking about the actor I don't like.
Yes. Is that the guy you don't? Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
trying
yeah.
to think what I saw him in that I just thought he was bland, but that
He's
could
not.
be just the role, maybe.
I don't think he's bland. I think the. I sometimes say that sometimes the acting is only as good as the script you're given, and I think he was given. I think he was given a lot of fantastic direction, and I think.
Oh, he was in The Thing. He was in the remake of The Thing. That's probably why.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
You
Fair
might you
enough.
might just have problems with the thing and not the actor.
Yeah, maybe.
But
That's a good point.
but yeah, so I mean he's got the whole film that he wants to do what he can to protect his family. Eve and then so he gets the guy's wife and son, and they living in the house that shows them joking about. So they've been living with each other for quite a few couple of days now, I think. But he's still paranoid, despite the fact that this person that entered their home, you know, was saying the story that he was just looking for food and water. Even though he was being honest, the dad of Travis was still the actor you don't like. He was still paranoid and saying that we don't know these people, and in the end it drove the guy that they rescued, it drove him not to insanity but to a point where they just had to escape. They wanted to leave the house because they knew what he was capable of, and there was just a few I don't want to ruin it for you, or if are people still in the chat.
Yeah, there's still people in the chat.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin it for everyone, but there are moments where you think, well, I was like, oh shit, they actually did that, and I was like, okay, that's cool. So it's always good when a film sort of, you don't think a film's going to do something and then they do it, and I was like, oh wow, they did that, okay. And it just had all these moments, but there's this scene where the actor you don't like, where he's driving with the guy that he tied up, and he's decided he's going to help him with his family. They're driving, and I can't remember what the time was at, what the timestamp is, but you see something in the woods. Okay. It's like it looks like a statue of something like this, but there's something there. I don't know what it is. But I just don't know. I mean, maybe there's something in the woods, maybe there's not, but something infected that dog, and something brought that dog back.
Okay.
Maybe there's something hidden that I haven't seen. I mean, what do other people think? Have they seen it?
There's no mentions yet in the chat about It Comes at Night. I mean, it's one of those films where I've been aware of it, but I just because I don't like the remake, I guess I never got around to watching it.
I think if you go in with a mindset that this film is a family that's just trying to survive and they're scared of everything, I think you'd enjoy it.
Okay, I will. I'll add it to the watch list. We are now. Bruce Todd says not seen it, but we'll check it out.
Yeah, it's worth a check out. Do you know what? I'm really hot. I'm actually next to a log fire, so I put like shitloads of logs like on it basically, and now I'm really regretting it because like I'm sweating from my nails. I didn't know that was a thing.
It's all right. We'll
sauna.
We've got 2 more films left, so we'll be able to get some fresh air in a minute.
2? Oh man, I'm joking.
So the next one, when I saw it on your list, I was like, oh man, this is awesome. It's probably the second John Carpenter film I ever saw after Halloween.
I love this film.
It used to be on Channel 4 a lot back in the day.
It did, yeah.
Like every other month it seemed to be on, but now, for whatever reason, like I don't think it's actually had a Blu-ray release in the UK. I think it seems to be quite difficult to find. I think it's one of those films that's definitely due like a proper Arrow film release, like a box set, like a proper good transfer of it. And that is In the Mouth of Madness. This is John Carpenter going Lovecraft, basically going H.P. Lovecraft. 1994 American supernatural horror film, directed and scored by John Carpenter. I think I remember when I watched this again a couple of years ago, I thought, did they basically rip off Enter Sandman for the opening theme? I think they tried to get Enter Sandman by Metallica as a song assigned for like the soundtrack, couldn't afford it, so John Carpenter just went fuck it and wrote his own version of it.
I, yeah, maybe. I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't even realize that he did the score.
Yeah, I think he scores the majority of his films. I
Yeah.
think I think he had Angelo Balotelli for The Thing. I may be making that up. He collaborated with someone on The Thing.
Because that was a lot of the thing. I swear they used analog synths for some of the sounds in the thing.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely. There's a lot of these kind of low droning synth sounds.
yeah,
Definitely. But yeah, this is his tribute to the work of the seminal horror writer H.P. Lovecraft. So yeah, talk to me about In the Mouth of Madness, Olas.
wow. What can I say? Sam Neill, credible actor. But I think the reason why I wanted to talk about this one in terms of paranoia is the film starts off with the ending pretty much to some
Yeah.
degree. And Sam Neill is in there, he's crazy. And he tells you how he became crazy, and it was because he thought he was a character in, is it Sutter Kane?
So Sutter Kane, yeah.
Sutter Kane, yeah. He was basically come to the realization that he was a character in Sutter Kane's story. But was he a character or wasn't he? And I was thinking about this. So for probably the majority of the film, he's trying to deny everything he is seeing and thinking there is a rational or logical explanation for like people with weird faces, or like paintings changing, or driving up and down the same
Oh,
place.
that scene when he's trying to escape the town and he still keeps ending up back in the town.
And he keeps, yeah.
So good.
And I thought about this, and I thought, he had this sort of paranoid. I mean, he says it in the opening scene that he's a paranoid schizophrenic. I'm sure he said that. Did he say that? I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure he does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure I heard that right at the beginning. And so the whole movie has made him go to this point of being paranoid. But he's not, because even though he is I guess we call it an asylum, a hospital.
Yeah.
Even though he's in that asylum, he knows, I think he often said that the world is going to shit out there to the person who came into to come and see him to try and get him out, and he's saying, no, the world has gone to shit, I'm safer in here. So he's saying he's a paranoid schizophrenic, but he's saying the world has gone to shit out there. But when he comes out of his room, his padded room, there's claw marks, and he goes into a post-apocalyptic world. I've just realized I've picked a lot of post-apocalyptic films.
Well, this one forms part of the Apocalypse trilogy.
Right, okay.
The Thing, and another underrated John Carpenter film, Prince of Darkness.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, do you know what? If you look at it on paper, you might think sounds a bit silly, because it's basically like Satan is in the form of like green ooze.
Okay.
But it is so good. It is so, you've got Alice Cooper playing a murderous homeless person.
Okay.
But it's really got that mid-80s, well, the kind of the classic signature Carpenter feel. You've got Donald Pleasance in it playing this priest. Basically, like, these archaeologists are investigating this old rundown church, and in the basement they find what appears to be this weird green ooze, and through texts and these recordings and whatnot, that it's kind of like Satan, but it's not. It's like the anti-god, or it's something similar to that.
Okay.
And it starts having an influence on the people around it, and it starts taking control, and someone gets their face melted off, and there's a really cool scene where a person gets dragged into a mirror, and you see from inside this mirror, and it's almost like it's underwater, and their hand is trying to reach back out, but then this like kind of black clawed hand pulls them back. It's given quite a bit away, but it's, yeah, I'd definitely say kind of similar to In the Mouth of Madness. They're lesser known in the wider populace for John Carpenter. Like, people know Halloween, The Thing, but they're they are excellent, and they're part of his Apocalypse trilogy, kind of because they've all got themes of end of the world. Definitely give Prince of Darkness a watch.
I'm definitely going to. Yeah, and but the whole concept of this movie is just brilliant. Like, it's absolutely fantastic because you think, is he going mad? Is he being paranoid? Are these things in his head? And then you notice that characters are jumping around.
Yeah.
So 1 minute he's there talking to a character, and then he'll go to a different room or something, and then all of a sudden that character will appear. And I think at one point they even mentioned, oh, that was it at the beginning of the film, when the person comes to see Sam Neill, and he went, and one of the doctors, he went, oh, you got here fast. So I think they kind of like sort of play with that idea that this is what it's going to be like in the rest of the film. There's going to be like characters just appearing, disappearing.
Yeah.
And it made me think, and I was just like, is this in his head? Is it really in his head? Is he just a paranoid schizophrenic, or is he actually in the book? And the monster design, oh my God, like they must have like took so many puppeteers. That big reveal when they have the big thing sort of
Oh God, yeah.
falling across. It sort of reminded me of the thing, and then it made me think. I was like, oh, did they use the same people for that than they did the thing?
Let's have a look for production.
Yeah.
So the visual effects for the film were done by Industrial Light and Magic,
Okay.
who I think they've done like Lord of the Rings and Lucasfilm, Star Wars. Practical effects, including creature prosthetics and animatronics, were done by the KNB EFX group. It took 7 weeks for KNB to create all the practical effects for the film, the biggest of which was an 18-foot wall of monsters that was mounted on rollers and operated by a crew of 25 people.
Wow.
And that would be the scene you were talking about down the hallway, the chase scene.
It's a shame that you didn't. It's a shame that you didn't sort of see it in its entirety for like a long period of time. I understand now why there were quick shots. I get that now, because
Well, it's kind of like Bruce Todd says, always appreciate practical effects and the craftsmanship is nice in it.
Oh. Yeah, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, it's kind of similar to the reveal at the end of The Thing. You were meant to see a bit more of the creature, but I think they'd kind of got to a point with the designs where they were like, I don't know if it was budgetary or whatnot, but really, you only actually see the creature in The Thing for a couple of seconds when it bursts through the floor before Kurt Russell blows it up. So I kind of feel with this one that maybe, whilst it would have been good to see like a better view of them, it's another example of The Thing, John Carpenter's versus the remake from a few years ago. Less is more, and that when you only see a brief glimpse of things, you then either go, right, I need to rewind and see that, or your imagination will go, whoa, Jesus Christ, what was that I just saw? You don't see it long enough to kind of, I suppose, maybe pick out the faults of like the practicality of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, and I've got to say as well that this film has done the best version of a crab walk I've ever seen.
Was that the landlady?
No, it was the lady that went with him on the journey.
Oh yeah, because she starts going a bit nutty, doesn't she?
She does the whole crab walk, but when she twists round, like I remember thinking, oh shit, they did that really well. Like, I was like, that's obviously someone doing it, and they put her face on it. But the practical effects on it are phenomenal. Like, what is Mouth of Madness? 90s? 91,
94.
94.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they just, only really got good at computer technology then? So
yeah, I mean, you had T2, but that was the kind of the exception to the rule, because there was a lot of films even into the early even late 2000s where the CGI and effects looked crap. So T2 really was that exception of how CGI can be done, whereas this, I suppose it was this was probably coming out maybe the tail end of practical effects being used in mid to low budget films. They did a great job with it. I mean, for me, when this came out, it just it hit all the marks. I was getting into horror after seeing Halloween. I was becoming a big fan of Stephen King, of which...
This is perfect because it mentions Stephen King a couple of times.
It mentions Stephen King, and the Sutter Kane character is almost like a parody of how big Stephen King... I mean, he's still one of the biggest authors in the world, but there was a period in the 80s, 90s where he was like a rock star almost of literature, which you think that couldn't happen these days. But yeah, there was anytime a new book of his came out, it was like a big event, and that's what they kind of have with Sutter Kane here, except it's almost to insanity, as we see with the guy that attacks the shop with the axe. His eyes are changed. Yeah. You've got those scenes where he's walking past the alleyway and the cop's beating up the guy, and there's subtle changes each time. And we mentioned the landlady with she's got like beaten up naked husband strapped to her, and then at one point I think she's got like tentacles for feet or something a bit later on. There's the kids outside the church that I think they attack someone, but they're all a bit like they've got like deformities or injuries, and
they're going, "Oh, you're our mummy or something."
Yeah,
they're saying, aren't they?
Yeah. And the escape where he's trying to escape the town, it's all gone to shit in the town. Driving away, and he keeps ending up back in the same spot. I mean, talk about paranoia and unnerving, and madness is a huge key concept in H.P. Lovecraft work. The exploration of insanity. I think that's a excellent, really overlooked film, but it should. I think it's due.
I feel like not a lot of people know about this film.
No.
That's what it seems like. Anyway,
a good friend of mine. I don't think you'd have met him on the filming, so I don't think your days clashed with his. But Dean Jovey, who's been a guest on the show, you met him, yeah.
I did see him, yeah.
He's a huge.
He got the slap from Danny, didn't he?
No, that's Lee Craven. That was Lee Craven. Yeah, he's done some awesome. He does a lot of effects work as well. He's done some awesome stuff. Yeah, no, Dean Jovey is big. John Carpenter fan, but I think up till a few years ago he'd never seen In the Mouth of Madness, and I think I'd found a link to it on YouTube. Like, you just, someone's not the best way to watch a film. I think people should always watch things the right way, but it was available ripped onto YouTube, and he'd never seen it before, but absolutely loved it. It's kind of to the similar era of like Vampires. Vampires doesn't get a lot of love, but I think Vampires is brilliant. With I
haven't seen Vampires.
It's got James Woods as an absolutely insane vampire hunter.
Isn't James Woods always been ripped on Family Guy?
He's a bit crazy. One of the things that when they filmed it, he had an agreement with John Carpenter. Do one take as it's written in the script, like the dialogue that's been written, and then do another take and you can do your version of it. Because he was like, I like these words, but I want to just wing it and just go for it. It's like, okay, you can do that, but let's also do a take that's as per the script.
From an actor's point of view, I can appreciate that.
I get it, yeah, because sometimes what's written might sound good in the script, but maybe not be so natural to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got a Fran Cannon that said he's seen In the Mouth of Madness many years ago. Must have been on Channel 4. Yeah, it's 100% where it was. Vampires is a fun film. Bruce Todd says he thought Vampires was meh, to be honest, but taste is subjective. Yeah, I'd agree with Fran Cannon. It's a fun film. I wouldn't say the script is amazing, and James Woods is batshit crazy in it, but it's fun. It's, if you want to have, if you don't compare it to other Carpenter films and just go, right, I'm gonna have some popcorn, have a beer, and watch some crazy 90s vampires, it's worth a watch. Now, the last film on the list that you gave me is another film that I was so pleased to see, because it is one of my favourite recent, in the last few years, horrors. And I think it's just absolutely brilliant. And if you look at if you try to boil down the synopsis to one line, I should say, it could easily be ridiculed, but it's done so well in this, where it's basically a sexually transmitted curse, if you want to look at it that way. But they make just such a great sense of dread in It Follows. The performances are brilliant. The direction of it is incredible. One of the things that I loved about this film, which stylistically I just really appreciated, was they don't pinpoint it to a particular time period.
Time. I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought that was
You
brilliant.
can't work it out, can't you? You can't work it out.
You think aesthetically, is this 70s? No, maybe it's 90s, but then she's got that kind of e-reader seashell type thing. Then the cinema, you think it's one era, but then the college seems fairly modern. I just, yeah. Talk to me about It Follows.
Well, I think I think you go for it. This sounds like it's one of your films. Like, you'd love this one.
So
yeah, it's
good.
incredible. I mean, even the music. I mean, the music has this, not synth pop, but it's like this retro sort of synth vibe. It's just everything about this film. And I think there was only 2 jump scares in this movie.
Yeah.
But even then, they weren't really jump scares. They were just, were they? They were, I suppose they were a bit jump scary, but just to know, I think the whole premise of this film was just incredible. Sorry, excuse me, I'm having a moment.
That's okay.
I don't know if I'm burping or yawning. One of the two. I think this film really sort of honed it for me with paranoia, because what can we call it? Can we say it?
Yeah.
Let's call it the thing, or whatever. You know, it's going to be it or the thing, isn't it? We don't know what it is. But the fact that it could be anybody, a person. I mean, you would know if it shows you in moments in the film when the thing that's following the person, where they're like in a random out of place. So it's like someone in there who looked to be in the 80s was walking towards the main character. I can't remember her name. Jay was walking towards Jay. So you think, oh, that could be definitely the thing that's after me, or the thing appeared on top of the house completely naked.
Yeah.
So there was, when it was out of, let's say, out of the norm, you would recognize what the thing was. But a lot of the time, you didn't know. The characters had to guess until it got a bit too late or a bit too close. And yeah, as you said, the only way to pass on the curse was to have sex with someone, basically. So it acted like a sexually transmitted disease. On paper, if you saw that, you'd be like, there's no way a studio is going to make this.
Yeah.
This is like, if anything, it would have been like a really, really low budget film. I mean, it probably was quite low budget anyway, but
yeah, what 1.3 million, which I mean, a million's still a million, but in terms of like a film with a widespread release that was shown at Cannes, I believe, that's low. That is a low budget.
Yeah. Still more than an indie, though, for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's just so much great. I mean, they got the key performances from the leads, Micah Monroe and Keir Gilchrist. I think they knock it out the park as the lead and her kind of nerdy friend.
They're fantastic. Even scenes where they're just sat in the pool. Oh, the chemistry the cast has between each other as well. I mean, the scene where she's in the pool and she's not doing anything. Even that, I'm captivated by, because nothing's happening. But I think it's the aesthetics. I think it's the way it's filmed. Just the color grading as well.
Yeah.
There wasn't too much going on in terms of color grading. Again, it goes back to timeline. Am I watching an older film, or am I watching? It's got all these sort of things, and for me, I feel like it almost pays homage to a lot of the older, not slasher films, but I don't know. I feel like it pays homage to something. I'm not quite sure what that is. It's probably a ridiculous thing to say, but I feel like it's just doing something. It's taken on what other older style horror films did, and it reminds me of The Happening. Like, The Happening could be a black and white film. It Follows could be a black and white film.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just paced brilliantly.
Yeah.
The opening, you're straight away asking questions, because you're seeing a girl in a real panic and terror, running away from a house, and you're thinking, what's happened? She maybe has
Oh, the
taking
death scene.
advantage of
Just remembered.
her. You know, people are looking at her like, what's going on? And she drives miles and miles. You can kind of see that she's maybe resigned herself to her fate, but you don't know what that is. And then you've got a quick cut to her led on the beach, dead, with her legs broken the wrong way.
Yeah.
What a way to open the film. Just the creepiness and the dread of the date when he goes on the date with her, and you're initially thinking, oh, okay, is this like a cutesy sort of teen film? They're picking out people from the audience. They're playing like a game, like describe a person that you can see without pointing them out or whatever. And he mentions someone in like a yellow rain jacket or something like that, and she's looking around going, I can't see anyone that looks like that, which sends him into a panic. And again, at that stage, you're thinking, what's all this about?
Yeah.
And it's within the first like 20 minutes or so that he basically, after they've had intercourse, and then all of a sudden he knocks her out, he chloroforms her, he very quickly says, right, okay, we don't have a lot of time. You're trapped to a wheelchair because I need to make you see this so you believe it, so then you have the best chance to survive. And I think that's brilliant, because you're not then put into a situation where she is then having to find out and panicking, like, what's going on, what's happening, blah blah blah. She's getting told, right, okay, I've got this, I have passed on to you, I'm sorry, that sucks, but I need you to understand what is happening, so then you can pass it on to someone else and hopefully survive, because the further it is away from you, the further it is away from me, and the better chance that we have of surviving. And as an audience, you're being told that okay, shit, this is what's going on. That's what happened to the girl at the start. And now, how is Jay, Micah Monroe, going to be able to deal with this? Because I guess there's the ethical question of, could you knowingly pass something on to someone, which I guess kind of like, it's a sexually transmitted curse, like an STD. Could you knowingly pass it on to someone, knowing the consequences that they're going to receive, just because it might save your bacon for another day or so? It's unique. There's no other film like it.
Yeah. I think they're planning on a sequel to it as well.
So kind of similar to what we discussed a bit earlier on about like sequels. Like part of me is intrigued about what they could do with the concept, but another part of me is like, let's just have it as a standalone film.
But would you be happy? Would you be happy if they explained what it is?
The difficulty is, I'd be happy if they did it in an intriguing way that didn't diminish the events of the film, because sometimes when you have these sequels, I say sometimes, maybe more often than not, and they try to delve into the mythology, kind of like with Blair Witch, to the Blair Witch Project, sometimes it's a case of putting things out there and putting that on paper, ideas which maybe are better theorized, as a viewer, as fans discussing that, well, I think it could be this, or how far back do you think that this thing goes? I think it's quite difficult, unless they're very clever, to explain it in a satisfying way, if that makes sense.
And that's the thing, you're not going to be able to please everyone, are you? But I guess I'm just like super curious. Like, I would love to know what it is, but at the same time, I'm still happy that I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I think.
Or maybe they tell you in the film and we just don't see it.
Yeah, to be honest, I do always prefer, even if there was maybe, let's say, like, I'll say a spin-off film, but maybe if it's a film that is potentially in the same universe, let's say, for argument's sake, like another film of the directors, where maybe there's an offhand comment or an offhand news article in the background that alludes to something relating to it. That I would find all right to digest. But I think if they came back, especially if it was like, let's say, it's a different director or different writer doing a sequel, like the studio are going ahead and they've hired someone else who doesn't have the same intentions as the original, the guy who came up with it. There's a little note on Wikipedia saying, following the film's success, Radius TWC co-president Tom Quinn announced that the studio is looking into a possible sequel. Quinn has expressed the idea of flipping the concept of the first film around, with Jamie or another protagonist going down the chain to find the origin of it. Now, initially, if I've read that line after first seeing the film the first time, you know, when you watch a film and you really like it, so you do a little Google, do a little YouTube, look at theories and stuff.
Yeah.
Initially, I'd have looked at that and been like, "Oh, cool, yeah, oh man," going down the line, seeing where it came from. But reading that now, that's the studio co-president, not the writer-director, and expressed the idea of Jamie or another protagonist, but let's just say Jamie for the time being, Jay, going down the chain to find the origin of it. Does that not kind of counteract the ending we got in the film where...
Well, that was ambiguous, wasn't it, the ending?
Yeah, because they've kind of got rid of it in theory, because if you're going to pass it on to someone to try and get it away as far as possible, then in theory a sex worker is the best place because they're going to be continuously
doing it,
passing it on.
Yeah.
But then you've got the ambiguity of them walking along, and you think, is that just someone walking in the same direction as them, or is that it? Is it back?
But you could see that they were questioning that themselves. I think that they were still questioning, and they still had this paranoia element about it, that this thing is still around. They're now at a point where they won't know if it's going for them or not.
The thing is, though, how feasibly, how could they trace it down to the origin of it? Because yes, potentially there is the first person who contracted it alive, because otherwise it would have got to them and killed them. But well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the stupid thing, isn't it? They wouldn't be able to do that because people have obviously died.
Yeah.
Because then it's gone to the next person.
Exactly. Yeah.
So at some point, it might have been around for thousands of years.
Well, Fran McCann raises a good point. He says the curse is similar to the curse from The Ring, though, because you could save yourself by passing it on. In terms of the passing on aspect and it coming back to you, yes, that's similar. But I guess with The Ring, the curse was related to this being, this person, or this ghost, or whatever. Sadaku, I can't remember her name is, and there was a mythos behind that. There was the reason for it kind of being there. I mean, I still don't really fully understand how it got into a videotape and all that stuff, but I haven't seen The Ring for so long. But in terms of the curse aspect being passed on, but with this, it's difficult. Part of me would, like you say, want to know, what is this thing? How did it start? Who first came across it? But then the other part of me is like, I don't know if I need to know that.
Yep. But I also think just the name alone, things like The Thing, In the Mouth of Madness, They Live. Oh, then perhaps that's not a good one. But just the title alone, you could probably gauge what this movie is about just from that title alone. I think a lot of movies, they have these titles and names of movies, and you think, oh yeah, whatever, I'll know what that is when I watch the movie. But it follows. Like when I saw that, I was like, wow, it's obviously going to be something about something following someone around. Yeah. Sure enough, there it is. But it's interesting that they used the car, and I've never understood why they used the car for that.
What, for the poster art?
Yeah. That's very particular that they picked that car out. Maybe because I don't know if it is it to say it's the start of her journey? Maybe, I don't know.
Well, yeah, because I guess it's at that point that it's transferred from him to her. Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, a lot of the other poster artwork relating to it, there's one on the Wikipedia where it's a painting essentially of a girl looking in the rearview mirror of the car. But then the other kind of artwork we have is the famous-ish image of Micah Monroe when she's tied to the wheelchair and obviously getting quite terrified about the situation she's in. Maybe you're onto something in regards to. It's got to be a deliberate choice to use the car in a lot of the imagery, considering the car is only in the film. Well, when they hook up and when he drops her home. Well, it doesn't really drop her home. He kind of turfs her out the car and drives off like a.
Oh, he
dick.
doesn't. He just literally boots her out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
bastard.
Yeah. But I like a lot of the questions that it asked and hinted at, like when they start looking into it and they go back and they locate the guy that she'd been on some dates with and that he wasn't using his actual name. He'd almost set up like a safe house, set up with all of the kind of almost like alarm systems, because of course one of the things we haven't mentioned, you said that the thing that it appears as many different people, but only you can see it when you've been infected. And it's odd that the choices that it uses, because sometimes it appears as people that the main characters don't seem to know, like the old woman
and the big tall man. That was creepy.
Big tall man when he comes through the door, the little child when they're on the beach, but then also the guy that she sleeps with, it appears to him as his mum.
Yeah.
Before it kills him, and then I think it's inferred that when it's attacking them at the pool, it's the dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it clearly it's got some type of. It's not just a case of I'm going to walk to you and kill you. It's using your fears or your thoughts against you.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have known that had I not have rewatched it a couple of times. And
there's like a picture, isn't there?
Picture, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, because when I first saw it, and they were like, well, who is it? Who is it? Or they were saying to was it Jay?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were saying to Jay, they wanted to know who it was. And she was just like, you don't want to know?
Yeah, because I think one or two of the girls are her sisters, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think maybe it's three sisters with matey boy Keir Gilchrist's character as the friend, I think, potentially. But yeah, she's kind of protecting them because I guess that would just sort of freak them out even more.
But that was an interest. Oh, that was actually good. That was a good, interesting concept of how to trap it, to get it in a pool, to electrocute it, or to shoot it.
But the fact is, it was like, no, I can kind of tell what you're doing here. I'm going to walk around the pool, and chuck the things at her to try and electrocute her, and. There's some cool moments, like when they try to capture it, because her friends are all like, it's not like a typical trope where they're like, what are you talking about? Something's invisible trying to kill you. They're like, shit, she's really scared. She's our friend. And then, they then witness it when it attacks them on the beach, or when they try to hit it and it sends one of them flying.
Oh, yeah, and it's invisible. You just see it pulling up the hair.
Yeah, pulling up the hair. And then when they're around the pool and they throw like a sheet over it, and I think they then use that to shoot it in the head. But the fact it also bleeds it just raises even more kind of questions of what even is this thing? But that then comes back to the sequel idea. Do we want to know, or is it best to just kind of leave it up to our imagination?
What I want to believe is that the writers do know what it is, but they're just not saying.
Yeah.
Like that's what I would like to know. Like if the writers went, yes, we do know what it is, but we're not saying, I would be happy with that.
Oh, as opposed to then, like they kind of just made it up on the, because
otherwise it's just a load of supernatural elements. Because if you think about it, we thought it's not the clown, but obviously this. We thought it could only follow certain rules, and it wasn't until that pool scene when it had a thought process.
Yeah.
And then it started chucking things. You think, well, hang on a minute. Now it's behaving differently. So it's not bound by rules. It can think for itself.
Yeah. It's got some level of kind of conscious.
Yeah.
Bruce Todd just said in the chat that maybe the car is designed to continue the not sure what date this is set at kind of feel, which I guess makes sense. I mean, it looks, I don't know anything about cars, but it looks like a kind of a classic 60s, 70s I don't know if that's convertible. I can't really tell in the picture. But yeah, again, it's adding to that kind of mystique of not setting it in one particular time period. It's a thing that has happened.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've talked to death about It Follows. Definitely, if you've not watched It Follows, highly recommend it. Excellent film. To be honest, I've not actually seen anything else that the director's done. Let's just give him a quick click. So It Follows was his second feature length. He did a short called Virgin, then a film called The Myth of the American Sleepover.
I'm sensing a lot of sex-related themes here.
In 2018, following It Follows, he directed Under the Silver Lake, which is an American neo-noir black comedy thriller that was written, produced, and directed by David Robert Mitchell. And I think this is starring Andrew Garfield. Yeah, I haven't seen it, but it's another A24 release. Under the Silver Lake polarized critics. Although its originality, direction, soundtrack, cinematography, and Garfield's performances were praised, some found the script confusing, too cryptic, and lacking the substance and depth the film was aiming for. That's something that can happen with filmmakers. For example, I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who did Donnie Darko.
Oh, I love that film.
I love Donnie Darko.
Yeah.
But then I think his follow-up films, like The Box and Southland Tales, I think.
Don't knock Southland Tales.
All I'll say is, it kind of seemed like he maybe potentially, don't come at me, he maybe potentially kind of fell into that trap of, I've hit gold with this kind of
M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, there's like,
type
you've got a bit of a twist. There's a bit of ambiguity. You could interpret the film a number of ways, and then kind of ramping it up to 11. Like, for me, there's only one.
Spinal Tap reference, like it.
Yeah. For me, there's only one David Lynch who can do these films where, if you try and put it on paper, it probably doesn't really make sense, but he does them in such a way that you can't help being encapsulated. And potentially from the sounds of that, I mean, I will at some point check out Under the Silver Lake, 'cause I do love a good noir mystery. It sounds like maybe that was the kind of feedback that was coming for that he'd sort of maybe tried to go too cryptic, so you then can't really follow. But I don't know. I'm guessing you've not seen Under the Silver Lake.
No, but Southland Tales, that was a strange one.
Yeah, I've seen bits of it. I haven't seen all of it.
It was, I mean, it was Dwayne Johnson and Sarah Michelle Gellar, Justin Timberlake.
All right.
Justin Timberlake? Yeah, I'm saying. Half asleep now. It is, isn't it?
Yeah, I think JT's in it.
JT, yeah. So it's like a really interesting cast anyway.
What about the story?
Do you know, I can't remember fuck all about the story. I remember Sarah Michelle Gellar was she a porn star or was The Rock a porn star? Somebody was a porn star, and then they weren't a porn star. And then all I remember is something about Justin Timberlake floating around in the sky with a sniper rifle. Is that right?
I can't remember. I mean, his other film I remember, The Box, was one of those things where it had an interesting idea.
What was The Box?
So The Box was a strange scarred-faced guy turns up at, it's Cameron Diaz, and
that was originally a Twilight. I'm sure that was a Twilight Zone thing originally.
Yeah, and that would make sense because it seems like that story would fit better into a short or an episode. Yeah. But it's one of those things where, okay, it's an interesting idea, but then how do you make that interesting for an hour and a half? 2 hours. Actually, for whatever reason, that has reminded me of a film that I did see Joel Edgerton in that I did actually like, and I think it might be the same director, but it's the film The Gift. Have you seen The Gift?
No.
The Gift, let me go back to Joel Edgerton, and it's kind of horror-y related. It's not really, it's more of a thriller. So it's Joel Edgerton, and I can't remember who the wife is in it. Oh, but it's the guy from Arrested Development. God, my name's gone.
Oh, I know the dude.
The main chap. Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
So and it's Joel Edgerton's feature directorial debut as well. So basically, and we're really going off piste here. Jason Bateman is happily married with a woman called Rebecca Hall's character, Simon and Robin. Happily married. They then run into a guy called Gordon, who was an old high school mate of Jason Bateman's character. But he starts kind of integrating himself in their life, and he seems very, very creepy. It's a psychological thriller, and as the story's unfolding, you're realizing, okay, some crap went down in the past when they were kids, and maybe Jason Bateman, who's our protagonist, wasn't such a nice kid growing up. Maybe he's changed, because he seems to be the nice guy that's his life's being invaded by this creepy kid that he used to bully at school. But then maybe he hasn't really fully changed, because as he's under pressure, he's kind of acting out a bit more and seeming less rational. Completely off topic, but I think The Gift might be on Netflix or Prime. But it's a good thriller. It's a good psychological thriller, definitely.
I'll add it to my watch list.
That's the thing with these shows. You just end up getting a big watch list. I've got Pulse and It Comes at Night added on. Right. Olas, we have gone probably one of the longest episodes in MOH history, which is cool. But I think we're both getting a little bit tired now.
No, I can keep going. Let's go for another hour, baby. Let's go. Let's do it. Is there anybody actually watching now?
I think we've still got Fran the Cannon and Bruce Todd are in the chat. So let's wrap things up. Olas, talk to me about have you got anything you'd like to plug? Any projects that have been released or things that you're working on, music or film? Where can people find you on socials?
YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. I generally use YouTube. I don't. I use Instagram more, actually. So I'm on there as Olas Carter and Lasearce, Lasearce. I also make drum and bass music. I've only got one song out, but I'm known as Darkest Right, DARKEST RIGHT. So you can find me on Instagram. You can follow. I would appreciate a follow on Spotify if anyone's into that electronic music. If you like what you hear, give me a follow. Or if you're not, whatever.
Or just throw out one of the regular chats this evening. Bruce Todd has said, "Have greatly enjoyed the chat. First time watching. We've absolutely got a regular watcher now in Bruce. Sorry for so much chatter. I've been getting drunk on a bottle of Bowmore. What's Bowmore? I don't know Bowmore.
Bowmore, is that got a frog logo?
Is it whiskey?
Is it whiskey?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with Bowmore. Yeah, absolutely. No, do not apologise at all, Bruce. We live for the interaction in chat and appreciate the people that come to watch live. If you're watching live on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the MOS Network, who we stream with as part of their channel. Also on Twitch, but YouTube are really looking to build. I think they're at 676 subscribers at the moment. Really looking to hit that. I think 800. Open some doors. But yeah, I completely forgot to hype up the other shows. Obviously, we had Retro Chat with Andy was on before tonight's show. Awesome stuff there. On the Turner Years with Bericles is on podcast feeds today. And then Sunday's the flagship show, the Ministry of Slam, every Sunday on Twitch and YouTube, and then the podcast streams, which will be on as well. Right, in terms of next week, it's either next week or the week after. I need to tie down the date. But I'm potentially going to have a previous guest back on, and that's someone that we both know, Olas. That would be director Peter Goddard. I'm going to be looking over a few weeks at the trend of remakes. But what we're specifically going to look at, Bruce Todd says, yes, it's a whiskey. I'm going to have to check it out.
Sorry, what was that called? What was that? 'Cause I love my whiskies.
Bowmore, Bowmore.
Okay,
Bowmore.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
I have to check it out as well. I've been getting into Smokehead, which is an Islay whiskey, like a Scottish whiskey. That's pretty good.
So it's a Scotch.
It's a it's a Scotch. Islay Scotch, yeah. We're going to have Peter Goddard coming on the show. I don't know if it's next week or maybe the week after. I'm looking to tie up some things, but it'll be the first in a series of looking at remakes and what he's going to be coming on the show to talk about. We are going to look at remakes and the originals of films that were in the video nasty era. So think the original versus the remake of Straw Dogs. Or Maniac. I flipping love the remake of Maniac with Elijah Wood, where it's all shot in POV, and the soundtrack of it's incredible. It's really 80s synthy. But we're going to be looking at that, like I say, either next week, maybe the week after. And yeah, I think I've kind of plugged all the other Ministry of Slam bits and bobs. Bruce Todd says I put it to 677. What does that mean? Well, hang about a couple of seconds. Is that... So I really don't know my whiskies. Is that whiskey related? I put it to 677.
Put it to 677.
All right, we'll give because obviously there's a delay from what we're saying and it appearing on the chat. But
Okay.
But yeah, once again, thank you so much for the show coming on tonight, Olas.
So thank you for having me. I'm so nervous. Like I'm not regular. Like it's an odd thing. Like as an actor, I'm not used to talking to a camera. So you always like that's why I look away a lot. Is because I'm not used to doing a camera thing. Oh,
sorry. Bruce said 677. So that's the subscriber count. So Bruce has just subscribed. Thank you very much. We're now at 677 on the MOS network. Yeah, so no, honestly, you're a natural, Olas, and I made sure to try and get you on early into the show run, just because it's always a lot of fun on set with you, because you got a unique sense of humour, and you're always laughing.
Is that like yeah, that is true. I am always laughing. Yeah,
you don't just basically come to set, sit and read the script. Not saying anyone does, but everyone has their method. You'll be very involved and very you'll put forward ideas, and it's always. So Bruce Todd says, okay, I'm sold on the next episode. Love me some video nasty talk. Yeah, definitely, Bruce. It'll either be next week or it might be the week after. I need to just confirm with Peter Goddard, but you've seen it at his office at home, Olas, his wall of video nasties and VHSs.
Shit, I just remembered I've still got one of his DVDs I need to give back to him.
Was it Cannibal Holocaust?
Yes. It's safe. It's safe.
It's safe.
It's safe. Yeah.
Well, when we eventually get one of these projects done, whether it's the one of the shorts, like the kind of panic attack or headache, whatever shorts that I wrote. I
was gonna say, Tezz, I've got like long hair and I can grow a beard back. Can we just do something with that? Like at least utilize that in some way.
We're gonna have to tweak some bits, because I know that Abby is traveling again. I saw on Facebook she was like modeling in Iceland or something, so she's living the dream.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to tweak some bits, because I know she at the moment can't do the feature. She said she doesn't want to, understandably, because features can take like a good couple of years, when we're doing it at weekends or availability. So me and Pete have said we'll look at doing a short, so we can utilize and just really put forward some ideas, and maybe use a short as a proof of concept to try and raise some funds, so we can
get some buzz going.
Get some what?
Get some buzz going.
Well, yes, exactly. Well, okay, so one of the things I haven't really mentioned on the MOH, but I've mentioned on the Ministry of Slam, Vipco is the distribution company that I kind of co-run. A couple of the films that Olas Carter has been in was my directing debut, Devil in the Woods, and also a co-directing gig with Peter Goddard, Harvest of the Dead, Halloween Night. Head to vipcovaults.com to the store, and you can pick up copies of those and a bunch of other great independent, low budget horror films, t-shirts, all that good stuff. And yeah, at some point, there is a YouTube channel as well for Vipco. I want to be getting some short films on there and really build up like a short film library. So we will, Olas, we will film at least a short this year. I'll get off my arse and I'll reconfigure some bits of that script, because I've now got a decent flat. It's a bit in the middle of nowhere. But we've got a location. We don't have to just reside ourselves to, let's hang out in the woods for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Right, guys. Right, it's getting late. It is a school night. Thank you very much. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't. Check out the other shows.
Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me as well. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here, Olas. And fans of the show and the MOS network, we'll see you around.
Hey.